Okay, good evening and welcome to the Orange Board of Finance special meeting. Today's Monday, March 8th. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. In accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. The meeting will be broadcast live on OGAT Optimum Channel 79 and Frontier Channel 6063 and streamed on YouTube and OGAT. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm going to introduce everyone on the screen so we're not talking over each other. We have Pat Romano, PJ Shanley, Joe Nuzzo, Kevin Moffitt, Jim Leahy, John Cifarelli, our Director of Finance, Deb Satonic, our Secretary, and Dr. Scarpetti, the Superintendent of the Orange School System. So item number 3, John, I think I reached out to you if there was any public comment received. You're muted. Unmute, John. Is it me or John?
I don't know, Chris, or is there a way to unmute John from remote?
I sent him a request to unmute, and there's something that he has to click on his end to enable his mute. I can't enable it for him. Oh, there it is.
You're okay now.
Okay, John, you with us? He's talking, we can't hear him.
Still, huh? So now it's showing he's unmuted now.
We're off to a smooth start.
He had a little point last time.
This hasn't happened in a while.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the meeting. Thanks for coming.
Well, I can assume there's no public comment, and if we have to, we'll come back to it.
All good.
I will help John get his microphone back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, the Orange Board of Education 2021-2022 budget presentation. And before I turn this over to Dr. Scarpetti, I would just like to thank him and his board and his team for their hard work. I know it's been a crazy year, and the Orange school system, from what I've heard, has done quite well, especially in comparison to some of our neighboring towns. And we greatly appreciate your efforts and everything you've done and your board has done. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Houlihan, and the rest of the Board of Finance members. If I may, I'd like to share my screen with all of you and everyone watching at home.
Absolutely.
Everyone, could you see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So as Mr. Houlihan, for all of us, all across Orange, but also through the United States with the pandemic, we as a board, or the board and the system understand that, and we pay particular attention to those items that we will go over with you because of our students. Joining us in person is in the room is Mr. William Kraut, our chairperson. All our other board members, Mr. Kapp, Ms. Riccio, Mrs. Brow, Mr. Flynn, Mrs. Hadlock, Mr. Rodriguez, Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Vitale, Mr. Young, and Mr. Zyman are watching on the YouTube channel. Watch and observe this meeting. In the same room, I'm joined by our Director of Curriculum Instruction and Personnel, Dr. Russo, our Director of Business and Operations, Mr. Gray, our Business Manager, Ms. Koch, and Mrs. Ito, our Director of Special Services, and Mr. Ullring, our Director of Technology. Also joining us via YouTube are all our principals, Dr. Arterberry, Mr. Bolciano, Mrs. Lasto, and our interim, Mrs. Sharon Worsman at Racebrook. For anyone that has watched our board meetings or has joined us, we start every meeting with our mission, which is to inspire and empower each student to academic excellence and bring social independence, responsibility, and lead with integrity. I think this echoes more than ever what we all faced. As Mr. Houlihan shared, it was a daunting task to have in-school person while also providing remote learning for our families as the state required us to in the pandemic, but we were able to do that 5 days a week in person for the whole entire day. The only exception was that is when we intentionally focused on remote learning, when we knew during Thanksgiving or during the holidays that people may have gathered to prevent us from going remote, full remote. Again, the ongoing theme of our highlights of our current year was about being COVID conscious and focusing on in-person learning. Another element, which was, I think, a nuance that everyone was hearing, was about safe environments. We've always talked about safe environments, but this had to do with our ventilation systems and making sure that our air quality met the expectations, and also providing distance learning when needed. And on top of that, as you may have been informed by Mr. Ziffarelli, we also were engaging in a municipal financial software implementation, which was also a high demand, and any transition of a software requires a lot of labor and training. And so I want to thank the team, our payroll and benefits, and everyone else on the team under our business operations to engage in that, and also the support of Mr. Ziffarelli and his team. Our goals will continue to build and promote strong foundations, strengthen teaching and learning, engage our students, and ensure safe and healthy environments. Again, in my mind, this rang true with the pandemic occurring because our foundations remained intact, whereas Mr. Houlihan shared in other districts that for whatever reason, they weren't able to proceed as we did. Again, I extend my thanks to the emergency management team, Mr. Zioli, all of you that have supported us, our selectmen during this time, our Board of Ed, our Director of Health. We wouldn't be able to do what we succeeded in doing without all of you. This is a slide that we typically show. I just have to move my screen a little bit. One thing that, I usually make a joke at this time of the slide, prior to my arrival, and I believe it was Mr. Leahy who may have noticed that there were an increase of either 5 to 7 students in each classroom. And you could see in 13, 14, where what was budgeted was 1,193 students, but when the actual was also much. Soon, I think the Board of Finance, along with the Board of Ed, requested that, deal with the enrollment numbers as they come. And so from 14, 15, sorry, I can't highlight this with a laser, but if you look at 14, 15, all the way to 19, 20, no matter what we started with an enrollment in our budget, we always increased. So you may ask, well, in 2021, that didn't occur. You started off with a budget of 1,211, and you actually started the year with less. Now, with that, there are some things that we believe impacted that. Number one, many of our families did not register their children going to kindergarten. And number two, we had approximately 19 families chose homeschool. Again, homeschool is different than remote learning. Remote learning, those children were registered in our classes, but had their learning at home. these families, about 20 of them, actually said, you know what, we're going to withdraw our students from your district and homeschool them because of the pandemic. So it will be interesting to see, again, as we evolve through the pandemic, what may occur and how our number of predicting of 1,166 students may jump up incredibly higher than what we're planning to do or what we're predicting.
So Vince, the 1166, can I just ask a quick question? The 11 would not include those families who have opted out through homeschool option for the past year?
No, sir. And then when we get into the enrollment numbers,
Yeah.
you will see, once I have it, you'll see a version of whatever our students are in first grade, it moves diagonal, that going to second,
Right.
and will follow suit.
Yeah, check that out. So it's
And-
19 families, but it's clearly more than 19 children, right? Because unless they all have one.
Correct. And
Got it.
And again, with people that either did not register their kindergarten students, we have to see what that impact will be. Not to jump too far in advance of slides that we will show later. Right now, again, we're predicting 150 students for kindergarten.
Right.
Right now, we have 144 enrolled, which is a higher enrollment that we had this time last year. So we're actually ahead of enrollment. And again, I think depending on what each family is, let's say, feeling about the pandemic and their concerns, we may increase our impact with kindergarten or some other grade levels. At least that's what we're predicting that will happen.
Thank you.
And I think we're going to see, just from what I've seen in my profession and living in the town, there seems to be a lot of escape from New York, and a lot of new young families moved into town. So,
Yeah. Again, this shows the percentage we've requested and has been accepted either through the referendum or through the process of the executive order that occurred last year. This year, we're asking for a 4.38% increase from last year. But we'll go into detail. This slide is a slide of the pie chart we show every year. I use the phrase of human capital. It shouldn't surprise anyone that 85% of our budget represents our staff, which I reference as human capital, which you should see. Without our staff, we wouldn't be as successful as we are, and especially how they rose to the occasion, especially when you see almost a year ago on March 13th is when the decision to close schools down, and how we did our best to advance with remote learning and then open our doors for in-person, but also made ourselves available for remote learning for our families that decided to do so. Again, as we pull up the consolidated budget in a moment, you will see increases as that pie chart showed in our groupings of salaries and benefits. Substitute teachers, which I'll get into the details of that. You may have seen a lot of districts who went full remote. They may have not started as full remote, but one of the challenges they had is not necessarily students contracting the virus, but their staff. And because of the support of the Board of Education, we were able to have a game plan over the summer to hire permanent subs. And that's been a big success to keeping our schools open, and you'll see increases with regards to that. Technology, curriculum, and transportation, I'll get more involved with that when we have the consolidated budget up. Decreases, again, as we get more involved with the consolidated budget, you'll see with professional learning, our curriculum materials, curriculum development, textbooks, and our municipal energy. Again, we're requesting a 4.38% increase to our budget. And as a no contractual obligations alone, 5%. And I'm ready for the direction of the Board of Finance of what slide you'd like to pull up next, but if there's any questions that you may have now with regarding what I currently presented.
Vince, can you give us a snapshot of, I mean, I've heard a lot from informal sources, okay? But myself, I'm particularly proud with how our town, K through 6, handled the schooling compared to others. Can you give us a kind of like a 30-second overview of what we did from September to now? And so that's a compartment of what I want to hear. And the second thing is, and how that might be just, again, maybe this much level down, how that differs from what what you were aware other towns might have done.
I don't mind sharing what we did. I'd rather just talk about what we did, Mr. Leahy,
All
comparing.
good. All good. Peace.
So I think there were a few things. One, we created a reopening committee. One of the things that we did, and I know we always talked about, and not that we haven't had time, but I know you've always requested this, and I apologize for not coming up with this, but you've always asked, hey, Vince, could you make a list of how you save money, the cost avoidance that you've constantly done year to year?
I might have said that, yeah.
Yeah, and even though we haven't done that, but one of the things is when this was facing all districts, a lot of consultants came out and said, hey, listen, we'll help you start the new year.
Mm-hmm.
That we had already created was systems in place. So our subcommittee meetings followed nicely about what was needed. So our curriculum, our building and grounds, our safety and security, everything flowed nicely that those systems were already in place. In addition to that, we gathered and had committees that involved our teachers, involved our parents, and those were the presidents and vice presidents of our PTAs and Os. So I think having those meetings that started right away, and also having the accessibility of Dr. Muhammad from the get-go allowed us to create and brainstorm all these different scenarios that we would be facing, and having the influence of all those shareholders. In addition, you may be aware that we were a 1-to-1 school system in grades 3 to 6, 2 to 1 in pre-K. Now, every child has a device. One of the things, again, because of the support of our Board of Education, we were able to order laptops and Chromebooks before maybe the other school districts did. So I know some school districts weren't able to start because of maybe devices, especially with ordering. So we ordered those in advance. In addition to that, we were able to choose a device, which I don't have in front of me, but let's say it's a advanced webcam. So this allowed teachers to interact with students.
Mm-hmm.
If on a moment's notice, because we've had to quarantine classrooms, that they were able to move this device instead of, installing cameras in the classroom or what have you. So those are just a few things, Mr. Leahy, that I think really impacted, again, that teamwork.
When did you start the reopening committee?
Right after school ended, we started. And we met weekly. Again, and on that committee was our teachers, our parent group, Dr. Muhammad, and our leadership team.
So in June you did that?
I believe so. June, I think as soon as school ended, we started to do that. So I think June, definitely July, but I could look up for a specific.
No. I'm already convinced it's a key success factor and makes our town way better than others. I mean, it's beyond to me. It is. I just wanted to hear more about it, and maybe by asking it, everybody could hear more about it.
Thank you for asking, because as I shared briefly, all the people that have been involved in reaching out at any moment on the weekends, late at night, of the people from the first selectman all the way to our leadership team and our parents have been what in my mind has made a huge impact. Designing, setting up our rooms that followed the APA, the American Pediatric Association, having the health department come visit our schools, ordering supplies in advance because, even though we're still in this pandemic, I think the feeling was much different in June, if you could imagine. And again, all the supplies that were needed. So plexiglasses in order to separate, systems to get lunches to our students. It was a busy summer to say the least.
Now, here's what I would say. If I was still doing work over at Sikorsky, I would say this team initiated action immediately rather than saying, well, at the end of August, we'll figure it out. No offense to anybody who did that. But that's what I observe or hear here, that you did it by organizing key stakeholders. You mentioned a few, teachers, PTO, frequency of meetings, that's key. Support of others, that's a third thing. And just as one example, I think you dropped one about ordering devices early. That's just one example of one action that group took that led to whatever it had to have improved things and seemed to have been very, very helpful. So I thank everyone involved in all that. And just to my mind, it's obviously not only a key success factor, but a benchmarking opportunity for others to learn from.
Thank you.
Great. So Jim, do you want to put up the,
Yeah, I just have one little nit. So whoever does these slides in the future, if they're not numbered, but the one that has the orange BOE students K through 6. Well, I say this, and so it captures not a nit, but the proper intent. Just add decimal points, okay? So for example, if you want to look at this year in fiscal year 2021, at the bottom, you're going to see students per, actual 18, and the last year was 17. So that's the type of thing catches my eye, right? So I go back and redo the numbers and I find out 17 is really 17.4, 18 is really 18.8, 17.8. And you get a different feel if you use decimal points. So I would just say next time, let's, or not. But to me, you're giving a better picture of everything if you use decimal points there. Thank you.
so now my question, are you going to put up the?
Yeah, I'll put it up, Kev. All good.
So
Tell me when you can see it. Let's see. We want to start with this one, Vince and team.
So that Vince can walk.
And
us
I
through
will, actually, I also have it as a slide. So Kevin, I'll use you as initial. I have this material as, I made it into a slide somewhere in the middle of this. It's right here. So tell me, I'll give you two models of the universe. One is this here, or I can just use the Excel slide itself, which would look like.
I didn't see either one.
Oh, I did it again. I didn't press the start sharing. That's the reason why, Kevin. It's sharing now. This is if I put it on PowerPoint, picture. And the other option, alternative, same data, is to put it this way. So you tell me which looks better.
I think the Excel looks better, but I'll defer to the rest of the members.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the PowerPoint looks a little better on TV.
Okay,
On TV? Okay, so let's try that, PJ.
when it is.
If Kevin's good with it, he's chairman. Okay, so here
Absolutely.
we go. And Vince, here was what I'm just like somebody who knew nothing, right? Here's what I would say. Okay, we got 9 administrators, 4 of them are principals. You can see we have 68 teachers, 10 in kindergarten. Just give us an understanding of this document that we have here.
Sure. So to begin with, the administrators, that is including all principals and all the directors, including myself, that I just mentioned earlier. As we move down, are classroom teachers. The classroom teachers, I think, is self-explanatory, are reading consultants or math consultants. This assists specific students that may need tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. Our library media specialists, phys ed teachers, kindergarten teachers, I believe is self-explanatory, art teachers. World language teachers, that's Spanish teachers, which we have one at each school with the exception of MLT.
So all these are full-time, on the second half, under not counting administrators, all these instructional staff of 96 are full-time?
Correct.
Okay. Now, how do I get 9 FTEs? Because clearly if I add across, I would get 11, right? So there must be some part-time in there maybe?
Are we looking at the administrators?
Yes, I suspect it's in the central office 6.
It is. So our business manager is a 0.5.
Oh,
Still 10.5.
Now, I don't know if you have any questions with the administrators or instructional staff. I can't move up the slide, so the only thing I'm seeing on my screen is the administrators and instructional certified staff.
right. We have a second slide for the second half.
Okay. Any questions with regarding administrators or instructional certified staff?
So you have one music teacher in each school, but not in MLT, right?
Those teachers travel along with some PE teachers to Mary L. Tracy, which is our pre-K kindergarten school.
Oh, so they just have a homeroom in those kind of buildings? Is that how you do it?
And what occurs is the principals work on the schedule over the summer, and
Yep.
depending how that unfolds at the schools, Racebrook, Peck, Turkey Hill, or grades 1 through 6, then the principal at MLT, as she works out her schedule, that's how it folds, and how the music teachers, PE teachers, art teachers, library media specialists travel to that school.
Okay. Team, last call on questions?
Good.
Okay, the second one, because if you remember the Excel file, it's a bigger thing, so I don't know how, PJ, you'll be our man on how it looks on the screen, okay? And then Kevin, you make the decision. But it looks like this, which is tougher to see. Now, here's an option. Put it like this using the PowerPoint and then just blow it up, which is kind of the same as using the Excel file, but there's one model. Give me a feedback if this works.
No, I think that's good.
Hey, Vince, take it away.
All right, so we have our central office staff. So those are administrative assistants, which we have 4. Our curriculum administrative assistants. So altogether in our central office, we have 5 central office staff. Part-time classroom, that's staff to support elements of, I'm just trying to look here. I just want to make sure I report to the, yeah, so part-time classrooms could be assisting with reading and math. What we did, just to jump down to our kindergarten aides, one thing that we were realizing that we needed support was we put additional kindergarten aides in each of our classrooms. What our system was last year at Mary L. Tracy is that we had part-time aides. With regards to the pandemic, especially with the computers. And again, just to go back to the first question you asked, Mr. Leahy, about one of the things that we talked about is the whole piece. Again, this not only gives a credit to the people that were part of this process, but we've reached out to. One of the requests that we asked our parents to do is to drop off their students to school if they were able to. Why we did that, that was talked about at the state level, is because we want to cohort our classes, but also do our best to create distance on our buses. And boy, did our parents respond. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that there was a more elaborate, I would say, at Mary L. Tracy, but again, every principal had to deal with the larger drop-off and pickup than before. So additional aides were very helpful with these students at the kindergarten level. Our school administrative assistants, we have one at each school. Our office aides, we have one at each school, but one is a part-timer, as you will see. So there's a total of 4. You'll see 3 in the FTE column, but
Right.
one timer at Turkey Hill. As we continue to go as our IT specialist, we have 1 in a tier 1 tech. As we get involved in our consolidated budget, a huge factor that you could imagine. So our devices, as I shared earlier, jump from 1-to-1 in grades 3 to 6 to 1-to-1 from grades pre-K to grade 6. That caused a domino effect of needing resources for our staff, our students, and also our families at home who were deciding to do remote learning at home. Maintenance salary, that's 1 person that assists with work orders of replacing a variety of things with regards to if there's an element of doors broken, windows, leaks. So we have 1 maintenance person, and then we have 2 custodians at every school, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. And then that custodial person that you see as a part-timer, that is a utility custodian.
Okay, why don't we hold there, see if we have any questions from the team on the support staff component of this visual. And this should be the exact same as the Excel file that we sent out.
I have a question. The tier 1 tech, you're saying you currently have 2 or you're looking to have 2?
We currently have 2.
Okay, thank you.
Last call on this section.
Good.
Thank you for the feedback. Slide into the next section, which I think is pretty much the end of it. And thanks so much to Mary Shaw for the work she did in getting all the slides and files to us. That was great. Vince?
Again, our special ed teachers, our mental health child associate, we have 2 that are part-time. Our registered behavior technician, we have 6. And again, I'm going to go into some details with our registered behavior tech on the consolidated budget to give a more descriptive about what they do and how that's impacted our budget. And of course, the aides that are needed to support some of our students.
Thanks. On the registered behavioral techs, we have 4 now, and we're looking to add 2.
Correct.
Okay, because that's when I look at that line, we have 4 out there, and okay, thanks.
Hey, Vince, I think it's, an obvious question, so you can just educate me, right? So we have MLT, which just says K, right? Or pre-K too?
Pre-K to K.
Yeah. Okay, but it feels like less number of grade levels than the, Racebrook, Turkey Hill, and Peck Place, right? And yet, when I look at SPED teachers and special ed paras, items 1 and 4 there, you notice a disproportionate number, higher number. So I need some learning to understand why.
So you're talking about at MLT?
Yeah. So for example, I have 6 there and only 5 at each of the schools. And item 4, I have 9 there rather than 6 or 7 at the schools that have 6 grades. So I just need to understand why.
Oh, great question, Mr. Leahy. So it really is predicated on the children that attend each individual school and what their IEP says that we need to provide for them. And again, an IEP is an individualized education plan. So that number can definitely change throughout the years. It's not that you always have 6 or 5 or that number, especially with the aides and pairs that change depending on the need of their students at those schools.
Well, if that's the case, what does 3 over in the district mean then? Help me with.
Special ed teachers, 3 in the district. Mrs. Ito, do you mind?
I don't know what that number represents. I know that the special ed teachers overall.
Can you hear Mary Ito or no?
50%.
All right, so,
I'm not sure what that 3
all right,
represents.
I think,
Okay, then take it as a, get back to us.
sure.
I mean, Vince, is there any, it's PJ Shanley. Again, thanks for your time today. The fact that the numbers are greater at MLT, does it have anything to do with the fact that these are younger kids? I mean, that probably need a little more attention?
Yeah,
Why don't
that's,
you just so they could hear you, Mrs. Ito. Hang on one second, Mr. Shanley.
Sure.
Mr. Stanley, that's true. Our youngest learners need more one-on-one, direct, explicit instruction as we educate kids starting at 3 years old.
Right.
And so many of our 3-year-olds are coming in with a high level of need. The other reason for the additional staff is that our pre-K teachers, although they are inclusive, they educate regular ed and special ed students. All 3 of them are special education teachers. So that accounts for 3 of our special ed teachers right off the bat because we have 3 sections of pre-K.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
And whatever you use to set up the response there, we could hear you loud and clear. So good job by you guys on that.
Were you able to see, Mrs. Ito, we're using this device,
I'm there now.
not the Falcon like Mr. Shanley has, but
The owl. The owl
Owl.
works great.
supposed to pick up a person's face when they speak. So hopefully that worked when she began to speak.
It did.
Awesome.
So, okay, I think this is the end of the PTE, FTE chart that we had, whatever version number I had sent out to the OBOF team. So any final questions on this material?
Good, all good.
Okay, Pat, Joe?
Good, thank you.
Okay, good. All right, now what I propose we go to next, Mr. Chairman, is the document in this PowerPoint presentation, but it's also sitting right here, I believe. So again, we'll go through 10 seconds of what's easiest to read. This one, whoops, violation. Didn't know that was sitting there. Just a graph. Or alternatively, let's see where it is. Just put this on this way. There, is that a good way to look at it?
No,
No, okay.
what the other slides were.
This one's better, yeah.
Okay. And again, I can take it off visual, and if someone stops to a section, I can. But Vince, maybe you want to just give us an overview of what we're looking at, the 4 schools, et cetera, and what you got.
Absolutely. This is a document that we share with the board and we'll also be sharing later on in the year. Going back to that slide on the PowerPoint that I joked where I referenced you, Mr. Leahy, where I believe there was a time and place that numbers would just be added to classrooms and not
I
really.
remember it well, yeah.
So you will see, and again, I'm going to start with Racebrook, Turkey, and Peck, that if you look on the first grade for 2021, you see 67 students that are currently in first grade. If you move diagonally for 21-22, Two, those are the same 67 students, but they're in second grade.
Yep.
You'll see that pattern through Racebrook, Turkey Hill, and Peck Place.
Mm-hmm.
The difference with Muriel Tracy is that we don't have that from last year. Again, we have some information of our students that are in our pre-K that are joining us as a kindergarten. The staff at Muriel Tracy reach out to the preschool programs. And for those that the parents have shared that they are going to be entering kindergarten, we have that. So this is a guesstimate of 150 students that will be entering Muriel Tracy. That was a guesstimate we used last year, but you will see that we actually have 168 students. And as I shared early in the presentation, we are actually ahead of our number. We have about 143, 144 students already. And not knowing those families that did not register their children last year, are we going to have a bit of a jump than what we currently have? We know that we will. The amount, we're unsure. I highlighted at Turkey Hill School, you may see in blue.
Right.
We started off with a lower number, and as I joked again in the past, we don't have that crystal ball. We always know more students will enter. What grade levels, we don't know. This was something that was brought to me by Turkey Hill, that, you know, if it stays at 23 is fine. There's an increase in fourth grade, that it's a number or class that we would look to increase that section. But currently we remained at 2 teachers for that section.
Vince, Mary sends out the, I mean, I can go get it if you wish. It sounds to me from looking at the data that you send out every month. And like, for example, this year, the net change from August to at least January, it's a sheet I printed out, and so it's pretty recent then, actually, now that I think about it. It's only been 7. So it sounds like whatever you start the year with, you pretty much, if you're going to get a big jump, you know about it in August. Is that a fair statement, do you think? Or at least historically?
I believe we don't know in August. I think it all depends. I think going back to the slide of that PowerPoint where I mentioned having, you know, from, I think it was the year 14, 15, all the way up until last year,
right?
The number we predicted, it jumped. And it's amazing how many students that we could get during the year. To the left of me is Mike Gray. He's our Director of Business and Operations, but as some of you may know, he was a principal. Mike, could you give any guidance with regards to what you observed in your previous seat?
Sure. So Dr. Scarpetti said it's really not something you would know right in August. We're actually still getting students now. It was variable. I can use Racebrook as an example where there were some years where our net was similar to what you just said, Mr. Leahy, where it might have been 7 children.
Right.
In recent past, that net had been climbing up, and there was one year that I was there that the net was up over 20 students of what we had predicted to have in our classrooms. That
Mike, I'm not saying let me just tell you why I'm making this statement, okay?
Yeah.
File that Mary sends out all the time, right? Every month. So here's August, 1241. You can see it. Here's January, 1248. So I just happen to have that sheet in my OBOF file. And I said, oh, it sounds like if we're going to get increases, you know, there's ups and downs in classes and grades all year. And that's just is what it is, right? People move and people come in. We all know that, but that's the only reason why I mentioned that it seemed to be stable once you got to August. Doesn't mean it happens every year. This year may be an aberration. I just wanted to let you know that's why I was commenting that way.
I appreciate it, Mr. Leahy, but I do agree with the statement you said this year, you know, a little bit different than years past.
Understood. Thank you. All right, so you were talking to, I think you were talking to this PowerPoint chart, Vince. And
Just to give a sense of what our projections are for next year, it's about how you point out with your cursor that we're just really
Yep.
moving current sections from one grade level to the next. It's a little
Right.
different in kindergarten. We're not showing our numbers with preschool as of yet. So this is really just our K through 6. And again, I just want to highlight to our Board of Finance members, discussion that we had at our Board of Ed meeting regarding the classroom at Turkey Hill, which is our current grade 3, moving to grade 4.
Mhm.
That depending if more students enroll in that specific classroom, that we may be requesting an additional teacher. Currently, if it stays that way, we'll be fine. But if we do get enrollment that increase in that section, that's something that we would want an additional teacher in that classroom, or request an additional teacher.
So I hope that I did the math wrong. This is your chart and most of it, I just put the OBOE proposed budget. I stuck that in and then I did a little bit of math underneath. And for whatever reason, my brain wanted to see what was the difference in class size when K through 6 and 1 through 6 in this proposal, a proposed budget. So that's why that's there. Okay. Are there any questions from the from the team for the enrollment chart?
All good.
Okay.
No questions.
Okay. So we will go to the budget chart, and this one by necessity would be in Excel. So it looks like this. But I don't know how it looks in the TV. There's various options. I could hide a couple of columns if that helps. Just to let you know how I coded this color-wise. I tried to put, a fading purple for either approved or requested, and actual or anticipated, I put it in a slightly different color. And for those that are at home who don't know this file, like the rest of us, what we're talking about, and I'll just do one example. We are looking at items and saying, okay, what's our current budget? What's the requested budget? What's the difference? And what's the percentage increase in that particular line item? That's how we're going to be going about it. How does it look on the screen, team?
Pretty low def.
Low def? Okay, so let's try a couple of options here. How
I don't
about-
really think it has anything to do, Jim, with the Excel file itself. I think it's more just
TV, you watch some of the other meetings and it's just blurry and it's actually moving.
Oh,
It
really?
looks fine on our screen, but it does not come across at all on TV.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. Maybe we can get smarter in the future, but it's going to be in the future, it looks like. Well, why don't we do the best we can? So for us, of course, all of you can have your own file or have it already printed out, or, the materials were sent. Hat tip to everybody over there for doing that. That's over and above for sure. So Vince, maybe however you want to do it, you can walk us through. And I think what we'll do is we'll have questions as we go by line item, and assuming when we line item, we pretty much have exhausted our questions. So we'll stay with each one at a good pace, like we always have done, and go forward if everybody's agreed to that process.
And again, as in the past, stop me anytime if with any questions. I know all of you hopefully have the document in front of you. We drop them at your mailboxes to hopefully to have a better visual for the Board of Finance members. I know the people watching at home may not be able to see everything, but as a quick overview, most of the things you see on this first page have remained flat, with the exception of a few line items. As we discussed in the PowerPoint, the first few, 101, 102, 103, have to do with the salaries, which was our largest element. Again, the salaries and benefits, about 85% of our budget. Overtime at central office, we want to make sure that we have that available. Munis, we are still going through Munis. We want to make sure that we have our accessibility with our staff with Munis. And our substitutes and overtime with our office, we've actually decreased for our support staff. Audit and fees and services, they have just increased a little bit. That was the quote from the people that do our audit. I'm looking at the slide that you're doing, Mr. Leahy. Consulting fees remain the same. Legal fees increased a bit. We need to be prepared for negotiations. Right now, we are going to be engaging in 3 negotiations. Those are our custodians is 1. Our administrative assistants at central office is 2. Our administrative assistants and paraprofessional is 3. So we want to be prepared for that. What stayed flat are our board expenses of 109 and 110.
Since these are large items here, why don't we just, take a breather and let the team, if anybody's got questions, we got 3 categories here, the 101 to 110. See what we got for questions. What I observe is that Vince has already anticipated and answered, how come we have a doubling of the central office overtime account? So I don't have a question on that. Someone else might.
No, it's all pretty basic so far, Jim.
Yep.
I think so. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Ready to go forward, team? Okay, so I'm going to go down to the area which is called district expenses.
So everything has stayed flat with the exception of district travel. The reason for that, of that increase, we had positions that were not filled the year before, and now they have been filled. And so those people travel to the schools. And so that was the increase of our district travel.
Who would they be, Vince?
Our director of business operations, so specifically Mike Ray, goes to the schools quite often. There was the absence of that position the year before. We also had our business manager was a part-time. That was, you may recall, Mary Jo.
Yeah.
And then we also have a courier that travels to the school when needed to pick up mail and things like that.
So this is a mileage thing?
This is a monthly.
Oh, monthly. Okay.
And mileage, yeah. So, but for some it's monthly, for others it's mileage.
Mm-hmm. No offense, but what we do, and we do this with all of these books, I don't know, I'm just holding up for myself what our budget book is for the town. We regularly go back and look at how much you actually spent in prior years to get a feel for, the activity within an account. So that's the type of thing that we might be looking at, either in this forum or additional forums. Last call for the district expenses team.
Good.
All right, curriculum development. Start section here. I think we got it all up on the screen. There's a number of activities here, and I'm sure Vince will address them.
Absolutely. Again, if there's one that I do not go over, please don't hesitate to ask. As you see, a decrease in some of our testing and assessments, but our curriculum office, one of the things that we are predicting that will be changing is no matter what occurs, is more remote learning. And because of that, we see a decrease in our curriculum office for the preparation and professional learning of having the option of remote when need be. Our professional learning of item number 123, that also decreased immensely. And some of the things that, unfortunately, they're not next to each other, but you may see decreases and increases in others.
Yeah.
So our professional learning decreased because of the invested time and funds to build capacity in years prior. So for that reason, we've decreased that line item. Again, just reviewing of the mileage for professional learning. Again, because of remote learning, we've decreased that. We talked about technology before, about curriculum materials, and you'll see quite a increase with software in a moment, but our curriculum materials are decreasing, so those tangible items are transitioning more to software items. And on line item number 126, you'll see an increase of 74,000. Our curriculum development, we decreased. Again, the impact that, if you, as you indicated a moment ago, Mr. Leahy, if you look at previous years, you saw an increase in elements of professional learning, software, I'm sorry, not software, but curriculum development. And now we're transitioning about, okay, we've kind of slowly built the capacity with regards to now engaging in that. So no matter if, certain analogies we've used with others, if you wanted to, for example, build a home gym, you may have up costs with regarding investing tangible items, a bench, weights. You may even, with health-wise, into your kitchen about buying things to process or food. Now that you have everything here, now it's time to do what you need to do. And that's what we've done in years past, of engage in professional learning, invested in consultants to help support our teachers, especially with our curriculum. Now that we have those foundations, that's the reason why you're seeing a decrease in those items of professional learning and curriculum materials. To now, we have that on hand. Now we need to do what we need to do with our learning and put that in action.
Vince, go ahead, PJ.
I'm just going to share with our curriculum software that has changed immensely. The resources that have been afforded to us now that all our students have a Chromebook, and our teachers, the access and resources that we have in our tool chest, so to speak, has expanded to meet the needs of our various learners. And for that reason, our curriculum software has increased. Question, Mr. Leahy, I believe you.
No, yes, I do, but I just wanted to make sure. So when you earlier talked about one-on-one device and you called it a Chromebook, that's the name of the device?
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me more about the curriculum materials, curriculum software trade-off. I'm a teacher. I used to be doing this. Now I'm doing this. The old stuff cost X. The new stuff cost Y. Can you educate me on that real briefly?
So just imagine yourself buying a math book.
Yep.
One point, and now there may be elements that are software that has access for a teacher. Some of the
This is across grades and across subjects, right?
correct. So there's just some elements called Newsela. So that's News ELA, English Language Arts. So that's accessible. So news articles are provided for our students. What's great, Mr. Leahy, as we talked about our students, which is our primary focus as always, is they're at different levels. So what News ELA provides us is the same topic, but at the reading level of our students. So that accessibility for us to pay for that software, but also get it in the students to read the same topic is an impact. So that's just one item. And we're also building our own curriculum, so we don't have to rely on programs with an end of life. So if we are talking about, you may have heard the Journeys program, that's what I reference, that's reading, but even math. Usually that has an end of life. And what we want to try to do, and this is, I'm surprised I forgot one of your sayings, but doing more with less is to invest in advance, but also see savings in our future. And that's another item that a lot of these products that are sold in these curriculum materials have an end of life. We want to make sure that we continue this with our teachers cultivating their capacity, but also having that software. And again, it could be, as you indicated, a multitude of subject levels, math, English language arts. But it's also our assessments too, our software. So we have assessments to inform us and how we could impact our students throughout the whole entire year. So there's something called STAR with reading and math. So it's not only information of assessing, but it's also information to provide, again, using the example of Newzilla, of about a topic that a student may be reading on at their level. So there's a variety of them. If the Board of Finance, we could provide an entire list of what the software we purchased, but that kind of encapsulates where we're moving towards as a district.
Software. One of the things, I think even in our town hall, the software recharge costs are killing us, at least when it comes to asking budget questions. In other words, it goes up 5% a year, 10%, whatever it is. Is this a one-time hit in these various software areas that you can utilize for a long time? Or
Typically,
that's going to be reoccurring at this level?
Correct. And this is where we do our best to negotiate depending on the length of time that we are dealing with our vendors. But even though this is a cost, we are seeing that, again, referencing about buying a tangible item. I'm not saying that we'll never buy a tangible item again, like a textbook or what have you, but typically those get outdated pretty quickly. And the amount of money a district spends on that is much more than the direction that we're going with the software, because it gets updated immediately. So like an example is, my daughter has a Kindle, right? And I think may know of that device. If you buy a book on Kindle versus buying the actual book, it's usually cheaper than actually buying the book.
Curriculum section. Questions?
I have a question just again on the software. Did you state whether that this was going to be, so the big increase we received this year, is it going to be a similar type, is that going to be a relatively stable number going forward, Dr. Scarpetti, or is that going to fluctuate?
May fluctuate because some of the programs we may try, Mr. Shanley, and this is what we're always reevaluating because, again, I'd be patient with my analogies that I like to share with my team. If I go into my tool chest, how many different drills do I need? How many different saws do I need? And so I think an element that we, every summer we get feedback from our teachers. So we want to be open and supporting our teachers to hit our learners, that things may change. Yes, expect that line of not to stay consistent. And I think to Mr. Leahy's point, our vendors may change their pricing too.
Right. But you don't anticipate something similar to this year where we have 127% increase in 1 year, unless something drastic happened, right?
Yes. So for example, or that STAR, that's every 2 years. But like I said, depending on the vendor.
Of course.
But we expect the line not to stay consistent. It does change.
Thank you.
Last call, team?
Yeah, I have a question. Obviously, we're doing okay this year because of the savings. Will we have the same savings, or will there be increases in the lines that, for example, I can't see it on the screen, the professional learning line, which is now minus 36,000, will it go up, or will it always maintain at close to the 9,000 level?
I think there will be a moment, Mr. Brown, that it may go up. Our plan is for it not to go up next year.
Mhm.
Again, we've kind of front loaded. So again, if you were to look in 2019-20 in that same line item,
Yeah.
we invested $80,000, with our professional learning. So again, using my silly analogies, if, your home gym, you may get every device, every support, but then it gets to a point that once you front load it, it's us, meaning our teachers and our staff need to do the work. So a lot of that had to do with our curriculum work back in 1920. And now it's, for a lack of a better term, it's training the trainers. We want to develop our teachers and expose our teachers to this learning. So one example, when we met with our teachers, when about 5 or 6 years ago, they really shared that how come only a certain amount of people go to professional learning? So we brought the professional learning in-house instead of just sending some out and coming back and sharing that information. To do that, there was a cost to it, as you see in 1920. However, it's slowly diminishing. Now, I'm not going to say that there's never a time in the future that's going to jump up, but with many of these line items, you will see an ebb and flow of what goes up and what goes down year to year, depending on what the intention and where our focus is as a district and how we're growing and where we need supports.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the total curriculum development line, which has gone down from last year. And so because of the savings, my question is, and I guess you're answering it, is can we anticipate in years going forward, it will be in the 176, 178,000 range, or is it going to pop up another 36,000 because you're now adding back the professional learning line?
Yeah, and I hope I'm being clear. If I'm not, please don't hesitate to say, Vince, I'm not getting it. But yes, to answer your question, it may pop up. We're planning for it to pop up next year.
Okay.
We don't foresee that. But will it ever? Yeah, because if we are engaging in a new learning, or we need to strengthen the skill sets of our staff, we may have to invest back into that.
Got it. I got it. Great. Thank you.
Evan, Joe?
Good.
All set.
Okay, thank you. We're moving in. Why don't we do this instructional other, and then we'll get the textbooks thing all in one, Vince.
Okay. So one thing that we did is decrease, and again, you'll see an ebb and flow here of the interns and substitute teachers of 56,700. Quite honestly, we've had challenge in years past before the pandemic with regards to our substitutes. It seems like this is an ongoing theme in all districts about getting substitutes when a teacher happens to be out sick or a personal day or what have you. Again, I mentioned that we have aligned systems, and part of our systems was using our subcommittees to look at a variety of things. One was Kelly Services way back when, and seeing if that approach may be helpful. Again, it was too costly for our district, so we didn't engage in that. And so what we did instead, as was highlighted, we invested in district permanent substitutes. So by having a person commit to us, we wanted to show that we committed to them. And because of that, again, not knowing that we were having a pandemic ahead of us, these were conversations that occurred. But to your point, Mr. Leahy, what was one of our successes? This was another one. But once our schools closed down and the work that we started in the summer, this is something that we moved on and created. And that's why in years past, you don't see district permanent subs. But this was one of our successes because it's not only our students, but our staff that have been exposed to the COVID. Of course, they had to quarantine. And for that reason, this is a huge success of us remaining open during this time.
What What is the scope of the permanent subs that you have, that you either have this year or anticipate next year that add up to $108,000?
Scope meaning their role, Mr. Leahy?
No, I'm just looking for how many.
4.
You mentioned in your presentation, if I took my notes right, and you know, as I get younger, the probability of that goes down. Permanent subs were the key to keeping schools open. Could you elaborate for us on that?
And they were one of them, Mr. Leahy. So
Okay, one of the keys, I accept that. Yep.
So one of the things that has occurred is that when you have teachers that were absent, and we don't have a sub because basically we have a system that may call you. So say if you want to be a substitute teacher in Orange,
Right.
you may get a call in the morning as a substitute teacher and saying, I don't want to take that job. I actually I got a call already, or another district promised me to work the whole entire week.
Yep.
So this is where we had to use other resources in our schools to cover classrooms. As I said, this was a situation and a challenge that we faced in previous years. So by having a permanent sub, by saying, you know what, Jim, we're going to have you here the whole entire year. And so this way, no matter what occurs, we have someone that we could cover students in the classroom.
Oh, no, you don't have to convince me about the value of a good sub. I mean, come on, I taught for 6 years in most of the time 7th grade, which is pretty close to a few of your grades. Got it. I'm curious, are these types of resources former teachers, or are they aspiring teachers, to give it two extremes? I'm curious.
Sometimes we do have, they are certified. Some of them are looking to, I believe, kind of show what they may have just in case there may be openings in the future.
Got it.
It could be both.
Okay, thank you.
Vince, if they're not being used, let's say it's a good week and the 4 of them are around but not being used in the classroom, how do you use these people?
So just to share with you, you may not be seeing this, Ms. Romano, but everyone is laughing because they're used. They're, for whatever reason, there's such a need, and even now, of hiring 4. So, when we say we have 4, it's for the district. So if
Right.
for whatever reason, if Turkey Hill has teachers out, it's not like you're assigned to Racebrook School, you're assigned. We've set that up, but if we need to pull that resource to another school, we can. And for whatever reason, we've been dealing with this shortage. Like as I shared earlier, this is a challenge districts face, and we are included in that to get subs on a ongoing basis. Because even today, if there's a shortage, and we don't know, you could be sick tonight and call first thing in the morning. We don't have anyone, and someone's getting a call with the software we use to call the list of people. We may get someone, we may not. So even having these 4 substitutes that are permanent, we are still using our resources in our school to at times cover classes because they are needed immensely. So we don't find that there's a lag time to answer your question about, oh, okay, it's a good week. It just they're needed in the classrooms.
I understand. Actually, about 1,000 years ago, I was asked to do that in the city of New York, so I understand the concept.
I'm pretty sure we tried it years ago, and for some reason, it didn't continue. But times are a lot different now than they were years back, that's for sure.
Saving this as the next version, so before I shut it down and forget to do so. So thank you for your patience. Hey, Vince, this seems like such a good idea, but it is troubling me in the following way. We spent money on inefficiency, random substitute teachers, and we replaced it with efficiency, district permanent substitutes. The cost of so there's a cost to this beneficial thing. I would have thought, and please don't feel like I'm asking for an explanation on numbers. I am not. But it feels to me I would have had more of a reduction in the having spent 70,000 in the current fiscal year. That just something feels off to me. I'll just make a statement. Peace. But if I had an inefficiency, and maybe you were just forced into having an inefficiency, you have the cost as quasi fixed, I guess, but it wasn't very effective, huh? And that this is more effective. That could be part of the answer, but it just seems to be a tad off for me.
And I appreciate that feedback, Mr. Leahy, but just something just dawned on me, which I think happens to about the inefficiency. So say, for example, Mr. Leahy, if you are a teacher and you happen to be close contact with someone, following those guidelines, you would be quarantined. And so what we would have to do is get someone in that classroom, because we don't, we would not like to put all those entire students in remote learning, because we believe the best efficiency is having someone in front of our students instead of having them on remote learning.
Roger
So
that.
I think that was another element that I think, and it depends. Like I said, when we looked at Kelly Services, we were so hopeful because other districts had a great result with Kelly Services. But and again, I don't mind sharing this at another time, but if you saw the investment the district would have to do, because if you see, yes, there's cost, we did a cost avoidance by doing it this way versus hiring Kelly Services. I don't mind sharing that with the group if anyone's interested in looking the due diligence that we put in before deciding this.
All right. Pat, Joe, anybody instructional? Good dialogue to me.
No, good.
Well, that was,
Okay, now we're in the blue area, textbooks and the supplier, all the schools. Not a
So
lot
this
of changes.
This blue area represents all our schools consolidated. So what occurs at our Board of Ed meeting, we share this, but we also break it down to our individual schools. And, coinciding, I believe, just the connection I'm making with the question Ms. Romano asks is, will this change? And it does. You see a decrease because a lot of, for example, the science supplies, when we have met and we don't need science supplies because we are fixed with it for the entire year. Next year, you're going to see a decrease. But again, that doesn't mean in some time when materials are used that you'll see maybe a jump next year. So there's that ebb and flow that you see with certain line items. But we'll be happy to go over any specific line item you have. But these are what our principals put in for a request. And it's part of our budget process every year that they speak with their staff, collect this information. And again, it's just as a friendly reminder, this is a zero-based budget. So it's not basically having our principals say, okay, what did I have last year? I'll do the same thing as this year. No, they have to defend their budget each time that they come in front of me and my team.
Well, I would think that, I don't know exactly what kind of textbooks. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell you right now, I used one textbooks for the 6 years that I taught before no longer teaching way back when, right? So when it feels like this must be tied to the curriculum software, right?
It is.
And the curriculum software went up about 74,000.
Correct.
So there's that.
with the science supplies reduction, I remember a couple of years ago, we got some extra money with the state, and I think you spent about
They went out and
100,000.
they bought some kind of kits.
Yeah, so is it, they're not being used as much anymore, or is it just the supplies aren't, you don't need as much?
Exactly. So, say for example, if there's a activity that they're using with erosion and there's materials that they need to buy, and say if it's sand and they do that activity, of course, if they have it on hand, that's great. After they do the activity with the students, they may need more next year. But we did, as a reference, we did buy new science kits to align with the standards, but it's really about the materials that those science kits, that they don't last forever, so you'll see that ebb and flow from year to year. Replenishing those science kits.
I think are we done with this section, guys?
Yep.
Else?
Pretty good?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just taking notes and doing this as well, so probably violations everywhere, Joe. Joe, you keeping it fair over there, babe?
Just counting them.
Special education is a big, long section here. We have the first component of it right in front of us here.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak broadly to begin with, Mr. Leahy, but again, if there's any specific line items,
Okay.
it aligns to what we talked about before in the past of that ebb and flow that you'll see with specific line items. So I believe the PowerPoint presentation, you may have, about the FTEs, I told you I would talk a little bit more. Thank you, the registered behavior technician. So when we talk about registered behavior technicians, they get certified for that title. And it's about having an applied behavior analysis for our students. And again, we've seen a change in our student population, even with our regular ed population, but also our special ed. So say, for example, I believe back in 17-18, we had approximately 16 students with autism. This year, we have 31, 32. So in a short time, it's doubled. And this is why the special education area is, it's the best prediction that we can have, because tomorrow, even before the school year ends, we could have a student enroll in our Orange school system. And with that, we will have to provide them services. So why I'm sharing this is that you may recall, Mr. Leahy, if you could just go to line item 79.
Excel line, this must be in your
151, I'm sorry, 151.
151, thank you.
I was looking at the Excel. Finds that, again, that's on a
Going the wrong way.
Yellow
Yeah.
section, here we go.
Yeah, I'm honing in, I'm tracking it down, guys. Thank you for your patience. Deserve it.
So it's a BCBA. So you may recall, and it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, the district was paying $150,000 for a BCBA. Why were we paying for that? As number one, that this person worked for an organization that we hired out as a consultant. One of the things that we did some research, and that we were able to hire our own BCBA and decrease that line item of a cost savings of $75,000 that year, but a cost avoidance for years to come. We are doing the same thing with these registered behavior technician. Again, as I shared, there's some line items that correlate with each other. So again, we have line item 153, or special ed aides.
Yep.
There's a decrease, and why? Because some of our staff have become certified as RBTs, and because of the need of our students, we are able to provide, instead of either outplacing our students or hiring consultants to come in. And to just jump a little down, Mr. Leahy, again, this is the number on the consolidated budget, 157.
Yes, right there.
So see a decrease of 20,000. So because of making that move and building the capacity in-house, almost along the lines with our curriculum too, by building our capacity, we're saving in one area of professional learning, but it's also the same with special ed. We have to look always intently about what we can do for our students in-house and cultivate our own staff, or hire people within versus hiring outside. Because as we know, outplacements are an incredible cost. Right now we have 4 students that are outplaced. I shared last year there was a student that we had that was out, brought back in. That's our goal to constantly do, but it's really building the capacity of our special ed department in order to do this. So that's one thing that is a compliment to our special ed department, of constantly looking and how we could reevaluate and I know we're looking at the dollars, but beyond the dollars, it's what's right for students to have the least restrictive environment in their own school with their peers. That's our intent. And if we could save money, that's also a secondary gain. We look at the student first before the budgetary impact. That's something I wanted to highlight to all of you. Do you want me to continue, or do you want any questions?
If I could just put a 10-second hold on this, Vince, I do not believe, I heard that some of these were connected, and I do not believe I have documented it in this file yet, or I don't know that I documented it accurately. So I'm one of those students, right, that just doesn't get it the first time all the time, and I kind of have a history of that if anybody really wanted to know. So you're telling me that 152 ties to 157? Am I hearing you right?
It ties to 153 and 157.
All right, thank you. All right. And when you say RBT, is that series of individuals? Is it a cost category? How do I understand that?
Repeat it out, Mr. Lay. I didn't hear the question.
RBT, is
Sure.
a one individual, 3 individuals, pieces of individuals like consultants? How do I understand the usage of that cost?
They are an individual, referencing back to the FTE that we presented earlier.
Right.
So we currently have 4. We're looking to hire 2 more, and that's why you saw this increase. And again, as you saw, this is something we implemented just last year in December. And so again, the intent is to provide these resources to our students at their school versus hiring and outsourcing, and also more importantly, avoiding outplacements when we can.
You wish to continue with the category, and I slowed you down, so let you speed up.
Forward of just some other decreases that we see. This was just really reviewing years past of legal costs and why there's a decrease in there. Textbooks, and teaching supplies, again, sometimes that's not always needed. Every year that we have to buy the same textbook, it's an element of buying it and then not needing it anymore.
Right.
Again, travel expenses was an impact because of remote learning, and we're planning that if we can, meetings can be done remotely versus having people travel to the schools. But if you have any questions, again, I think the special ed district transportation, we do have students that are in need of special buses because of the adaptive equipment. So that caused the increase on line item 171. In addition to that, as I talked about the special ed outplace transportation, that is a cost that we have to provide to our students when we are not able to meet the needs of that student. And we unfortunately have to outplace them.
Excuse me.
You said you had 4 students outplaced right now.
Yes.
Are they not in Amity leadership? How to say this? In our meetings with Amity leadership, but I was approached or whatever in conversation, I learned something that that perhaps some of our students that are outplaced are in grade 6. Is that accurate?
They are not this year, but in years past, of course, if there's an outplaced student that is in grade 6, that follows them when they become an Amity student.
Well, I guess what I'm hearing is that costs are increasing in one school, such as like the high school, because increase of outplaced special ed students will be arriving. I'm not sure I'm hearing that you have them in grade 6 from which they would be arriving. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, currently this year we don't. In years past, we have.
We don't. Okay.
Yeah, not this year, but in years
All right.
past, we have.
It could be Woodbridge or Bethany too.
No,
Exactly.
I was specifically told that the comment was about Orange.
Huh.
Yeah. You'd be amazed when we get together and I can share with you. Anyway, let me just stop. Okay. All right, team, I see the bottom of the special education category having a 5% increase. A lot of it has to do with the increases we see there in the category 152. The SPED teacher, by the way, I'll ask it later, I guess, but I wish to know at some point something about your negotiation with the teachers. What year of your contract are you in?
We are, I believe, with our teachers.
Yeah.
We will be negotiating them with next year.
So your contract goes through through the 2021 season?
Correct.
Thank you. Anything else for Vince and his staff on special ed?
Good.
Good, thank you. Okay. Technology. Had some ups and downs here.
We,
Mostly ups.
Well, I'm looking at last year's end of the year.
one of the things that you will see as an increase is our network service of $41,459. That has to do with increase for bandwidth from 1 gigabyte to 10 gigabytes. As I shared earlier, we have expanded our technology quite extensively. And for that reason, our networks are moving much slower. So if you would like to equate it to a highway and more people that are getting on that highway, it typically causes traffic all at once. And for that reason, we are increasing our bandwidth from.
How does that work, Vince, when you have, your office and MLT are right next to each other? Is this, I'm trying to understand bandwidth in like, when I leave my house, I go too far away. I'm no longer using what I consider to be the internet of my home, right? How do you, is this like extra stuff you have to put at every location, all 4 of the locations?
Well, just alone, so if we've gone to some students having a one-to-one device, Mr. Lee, now everyone has a device.
All right.
Everyone is on the internet at the same time. That drastically slows things down and at times is off the internet versus also our teachers, who are instructing, using video, students working together in groups. So because of all that activity, the bandwidth needs to be expanded.
No, and that did happen across the board. You saw a lot of companies going remote last spring, and some of them learned that lesson the hard way, because when everybody was working from home on the corporate servers, it just didn't, in some cases, didn't work very well. So I get that. My question there, Vince, is the additional 41,000. Is this annual, or is this once this is if this is spent, is that like a one and done? I don't.
That's for 5 years.
That's for 5. So we pay this extra 41. We're good for 5 years.
Correct.
Or is it 40, or is it going to be 96,000 each year for the next 5 years?
90, it's going to be 96,000 for the 5 years.
Okay, so that line, it's 96 a year, not over 5 years. We're at 96 every year now going out to sustain this.
Hang on one second. I just want to confirm what I'm sharing to be true, Mr. Houlihan. Why don't you sit over here, Matt? Joining us at with the owl is Matt Ollinger, Director.
There are other items that are in that budget item, that line item. So there are like network switches, for example. Sometimes we'll purchase 5 or possibly 10 switches. So each year it just depends if we're going to order them. So that line item will fluctuate, but it won't go. It doesn't usually go higher, or shouldn't go higher than that. What we budgeted for this next school year.
Is it for 5 years? Maybe I should have corrected
But
information.
that agreement is actually going to be for 6 years, because we got to finish the original 5 years.
This current year?
At 1 gig, and then we are going to do another 5-year agreement at 10 gig. So, and just to piggyback off of that, security has been affected. Just the speeds are affecting the speeds of the cameras. You know, when you go to
Why we need the bandwidth?
why we need
So-
bandwidth. All these devices on the network are causing playback of video to skip, and we're missing crucial information.
Could everyone hear Matt okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard him, but following up on Kevin's question, not all of it is the bandwidth. This 5 or 6 year thing, is that just for the bandwidth?
And it is.
Yes.
Okay, so how much of the 41,459 is tied to the increase, is tied to the bandwidth?
Yeah, most of it.
So in other words, Matt, after that is paid, I'm just trying to look at this.
And then we have our internet, which is part of that line item as well. And that one's pretty consistent. That will not vary year to year.
So I think the question is how much of the 96 is recurring and how much in this year is a one-time expense?
Right. So most of it, so about 5,000 is, varies. The rest of it will be a consistent schedule.
It's going to be about 96,000 a year for the next 6 years, give or take a few thousand.
Give or take a few thousand.
Okay.
Okay, that was the question.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, we're off to web hosting.
The web hosting, that cost has to do with website maintenance.
Yeah, because we had that expense and then it went away.
Correct. So that was a prepayment. So some of these line items you will see in years past that it was a prepayment. So we paid in advance.
That would make sense because 1920 was double the prior year, and
Yep.
this year's, with inflation is a little more than half of that payment. Okay.
Um, I'm a little surprised, Vince, that your copying and printing cost hasn't gone down.
Looking for that line item. Hang on one second, Mr. Leahy.
184.
184.
Jim, don't forget, the kids are still in school.
And the
Curriculum
copiers are
software,
probably-
when you have more software, you're not doing as much printing. As a teacher, if I'm using software, I'm not printing as much.
They print a lot.
They do, and again,
I print a lot.
Particularly the lower grades.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to share with you, Mr. Leahy, of actually the cost savings we've had over the years.
Mhm.
Vince, don't worry about it. I'll just bring over my daughter's notebook.
Okay.
I should be asking my Board of Finance guys to answer all these questions. So how about the district utility software that had a huge increase? Why don't we go there?
So with that, part of that had to do with an increase that included 40,000 for municipal support and maintenance. The other costs had to do with, again, these are all software programs that we're using that were up as PowerSchool, Microsoft licensing, another website called Final Site. So these were just costs for all softwares that we provide to our teachers and staff.
So Vince, once again, this is an annual cost subscription on these items. It's not like a one and done 5-year purchase.
Correct.
Okay.
So earlier, I'll just slide up here to where I find it. I'm hearing curriculum software. That was tied to teachers. Now I'm hearing district utility software. How are they different?
So you're asking for the network versus what was the other line item, Mr. Leahy?
186 and back it was, I'll find it here for you, Vince. 26 under curriculum.
So district involves the whole entire district, which involves everyone. The curriculum is centered on the curriculum work. So PowerSchool, for example, is part of our district. That has nothing to do with our curriculum. However, for example, our PowerSchool program involves, if you were to register, we type in all the information, and it is a house for all our students, information on that. It also involves reports that it gathers. So with regarding our state information, that gathers that. So every so many months, the state asks us for data regarding our student population. So the district covers that piece of the whole entire schools, all 4 schools, versus focusing on the curriculum. So, hang on one second, Mr. Leahy. More than happy to share this document with the Board of Finance, but we have actually separated what our district utility software is versus our curriculum software. I don't mind reading this out loud, but it just separates the software that falls under those 2 categories. I'll be happy to read if you like, or if you'd rather just have us send it over, so you can get a better knowledge of the difference of the 2.
Kevin?
If you send it over, that's probably
Yeah.
better.
Agreed.
Yeah, it'd be good information.
I'm in my mind separating it out between teaching software and administrative software. Am I correct in looking at it that way?
Do you mind finishing the rest of the presentation? That would be great.
Okay, are we good with technology for now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Couple of modest items here, security and safety and security monitors.
189 is in my mind is self-explanatory. The security monitors, uniform and training. The school security and safety has to do updates with our cameras and switches that we use to support the cameras and the video surveillance that we use.
Mhm. On 191, Vince, is that PPE type of stuff? You wearing masks or what do we got there?
Health supplies for a district is more supplies that are at the nurse's office. Correct.
Like there,
My daughter was there today, actually.
with a bunch of paper, right?
We've got copies.
Are we ready to move to transportation team?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, regular transportation looks like it's going up 6%. Is that a contract thing, Vince?
Part of it's contract and part of it is was offset for legal requirements to pay for transportation of homeless students and some repairs to radios. Along with transportation, again, hopefully this will occur, but school visits, and that's MLT visiting their home schools. So kindergarten students leaving to go first grade. Of course, that's Racebrook, Turk Hill, Peck Place, visiting Amity Middle School.
Right.
Okay.
Facilities then? Moving to area code.
Again, as we looked over the past couple of years of custodial substitutes and also overtime. Overtime was flat. Substitutes, we try to do our best to internally, when needed, provide substitutes, but this was mostly based on because of the pandemic and that it was related to the pandemic that the substitutes were not needed. So it was related to the pandemic with regarding a decrease.
Same thing with the custodial overtime because you only used 5,000 in the current year in this column here.
Correct. And again, we always reevaluate our systems, Mr. Leahy. So again, looking about when that overtime was needed, looking at past systems that may be needed to be improved. So that's the reason why that you saw a decrease.
All right. Building operations, custodial supplies go up by 7,000.
So with that, as I indicated earlier, some of the things that we had to face with the pandemic not only had to do with our technology, remote learning, but also creating an environment that was safe for students. So a lot of training that occurred for us to kind of raise our bar where it was needed for specific supplies that work best with viruses or contact on virus. These are actually upfront costs and hopefully cost avoidance in the future for systems that we created. So There's a different copying system that we've embarked on. So that needed different supplies. But those are upfront costs to hopefully avoid future costs.
You're talking about which item now, Vince?
206, custodial
Okay.
supplies.
Right. Building repairs, 161 up 60,000. Are these a lot of little things or are they bigger things?
Again, referencing about what we're facing as we look at our HVAC. So they could be big things versus little things. One of the things that we've of increased is our changing of our filters. That was a common theme of the workshops we attended with regarding our ventilation system. So we want to do that more frequently to have the air quality as best as it could be.
It'd be important, right, Kevin, to know if they're bigger or little things for capital versus expense type of situations? Yes, no?
Well, the big ones would be in the capital side of the budget anyway, right?
Not that big.
The townwide stuff, the Ralph Oakenquist stuff.
Yeah, they're not that large, the ones that we're putting in here, Mr. Moffett.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I would think they would be separate.
I think it
Correct.
benefits everybody if we could figure out ways to get more stuff into capital, big or little, but that
Great.
Kevin Houlihan is our ace in the hole here. I think it's something we got to figure out. Okay, anything else on buildings? Contracted services? What you budgeted, you anticipate exactly the same? Okay. Roger that. All the way through utilities.
Utilities looks great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We got rid of the municipal energy program. That faded away, right?
Correct, and that was our biggest savings.
Right. I'm curious, the electricity going up. I can visually see that we've built up column H to match column G. But when I look back on column E and F there from the prior year, I'm not getting the same love on that being exactly the same. So, and I see an exactly 3% increase on electricity. So I'm curious why we wouldn't have a decrease in the use of electricity this year, or at least the same as 1920. Have the rates gone up, Kevin? I think I'm paying more at my home, but
Yeah, they did. They went up substantially.
okay, thank you.
In addition to that, Mr. Leahy, our fans are running constantly for the movement of air. So those are some things that we are planning with having them on more frequently with the univents, but also as you and Mr. Julian just discussed, they have gone up our utility costs, the electricity.
So not only do you use filters, but you have to have increased usage of filters, but you have to have your fans on more frequently. Is that it?
Yeah, and so it's really amazing the elements that we've learned in this pandemic. As we shared, it's not only about PPE that you referenced, how we've designed our classrooms, filters, cleaning the vents. But yes, it also has to do with the unit vents running in order to move the air around.
Anything for utilities or what turns out to be the total of facilities, adding up a bunch of the ones above it?
They're actually down. That's good there.
Okay, let's look at insurance. I was stunned that total health insurance went down.
Yeah, me too, pleasantly. So I was going to ask Dr. Scarpetti how solid that number is, or are we waiting for a change to come from our providers?
We're hoping not for a change. Again, I want to thank Mr. Zeffirelli and Christine. They've been collaborating on this. We do think, again, this had to do with the pandemic, that less people are going to the hospital, again, staying at home, making themselves less available maybe to injuries or things such as that. And we believe that's one of the reasons why that, or if not the reason why that was what we're seeing with regarding our health insurance of decreasing.
John Cifarelli, I don't know if your mic's working now. And on the town side, we don't have the joy of having health insurance be even close to even, let alone go down. You got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, a couple of things. They have more people that are feeding copays into the health insurance fund. So that's one of the reasons we have less people on that side. That number, as Dr. Scarpetti said, our claims are down a little bit because of the pandemic, but we're starting to see a rise since the beginning of the year. But we think that number should hold for this year. We shouldn't get any differences.
But this is the same insurance that we have for the town, no?
Yes, but we have a different number of people. We have, they have, I think, 100 people more than we have in the plan. So the co-pays go in that offset some of their costs.
Yeah, but we are covering less in the town, yeah?
Right. But our claims are the same. Even though we have less people, our claims are 50-50. So if we estimate $9 million in claims, it's 4.5 aside. But then they have more people that's knocking it down to get the 4.5 in with the copays.
Okay, so you would then assign your health insurance, you split it up based on claims rather than how many people?
The administrative end is based on people, but the claims are based on what the claims are on each side. And right now they're running 50-50.
Okay, thank you.
I think we should prepare ourselves to potentially have an increase in this line item, as I think many people put off, non-essential, non-critical type procedures, and they're going to begin to have those procedures, operations. So we could be looking at a much, different year next year, much more expensive. Just something that we should, certainly have in the back of our minds.
But I agree, because I'm one of those people.
Right.
So
I think we all are.
And I also think you have to account that there may be a younger staff at in the school system. So maybe the claims and you have an aged population and the in the workforce of the town versus the education.
They also have, even though there's more people and our claims are even, they have a high deductible plan over there for some of their people. And that does save them some money.
Mm-hmm.
And to PJ's comment, I mean, I don't want the OBOE to increase that line item on a whim, especially if they've worked hard. But, we are in the fortunate situation that should it change significantly, you know, we can fund it from the town, should that happen.
You know, if it happens here, it'll be happening in Amity too, I'm sure. So we'd just have to tackle it.
Yep.
So I'm seeing a lot of general liability insurance went up 10% or more. We have any thoughts on that?
You want me to do that one, Dr. Scarpetti?
That'd be great, Mr. Cifarelli.
A couple of years, we started to employ a consultant on the insurance, and he helped us save a few dollars in workman's comp and liability insurance and some of the other smaller insurances. Last year, we put it out to bid, and we switched from Kerma, which most of the, I won't say most of, probably about 75% of the governmental entities in Connecticut use, and we went to Travelers, and we saved a little bit of money last year, and they're projecting the cost increase this year because of some of our claims and all to be about a 10% increase. The big lion that I won't say is in the bottle is workman's comp. Most of the people in private and in government that have gone out on COVID, some workman's comp claims have been filed and they've been denied across the state right now, but there's talk in Hartford about doing something about that. So if that runs against us, there could be a serious increase down the road in that, just to make everybody aware.
Are you talking about that? It went up 15,000 right here, John? Or are you talking about over and above here?
It could be over and above that.
Thank you.
So you're speaking to a case where someone has COVID, they got it on the job, and now they never fully recovered, and they have permanent injuries.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of 3% things in here. John, are you the one that's driving the 3%, saying that everything's going to be 3%, or is that just an estimate?
Those are all theirs. That's all their side. Life insurance is, that's probably by contract with them. Social Security and Medicare is probably with the increase in the salaries. Pension contribution, that's the 401, that would be with their salaries. Disability insurance is probably contract, and we're all seeing an increase in unemployment compensation, as I've spoken to you in the past as we've gone over our budget.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, total insurance. So why don't we just throw it open to all questions on insurance?
No, overall, you know, when you look at what happened to their budget last year from 19 to 20 because of the health insurance increases, you know, if these numbers are good from the provider, I think we dodged a bullet.
Yep.
Oh, that's what I thought as soon as I raced right to here. I mean, you know, you can look at a lot of.
Yeah, turn to the back of the book. Went like to that last page.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about the back of the book here then. How about the last couple of items here? What we can see is one of them is double the cafeteria subsidy, but then there was a 21st administrative and accounting support that I don't know what that deduction is. So a couple of things we could comment on here, and the increase in reserve by 50,000. So a few items to talk to, Vince.
So let's start with the last one I mentioned, the reserve. As you know, we were asked to decrease our budget. That was a line item that was that amount last year. And so that's where we kind of, after.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cafeteria subsidy. No, that's been a challenge. We've always, unfortunately, have operated it. Hang on one second, I just got to move. something here. Okay. You can speak about the cafeteria.
So with the cafeteria, this is Mike Gray, by the way. With the cafeteria, like Dr. Scarpetti said, we usually do run a bit of a deficit there. It's compounded this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're seeing less participation in our lunch program. The state has actually extended the free lunches to all families for the remainder of the school year, and we've been communicating that out to our families, but participation still remains low in our hot lunch program here at schools. So we're running a bit further behind this year.
Okay. What's this red one there? The 21st Administrative Accounting Support? It's I'm not exactly sure how to interpret the
Sure. So
number.
again, as a friendly reminder from last year, the 21st is our after-school program.
Okay.
So there are resources that they use. And again, that's administratively. So again, checks, payroll, additional supports that central office. So we decrease that amount from our budget because that's replenished by the 21st Century program.
And with this these explanations, we see the column that led to the one in the PowerPoint presentation that I'll just highlight right here in a box, which at the current moment is 4.38% increase from the prior budget, which is in column G or H. Other questions from the team?
Good. Good explanations.
I'll save this as version 4. I'll send it out to the team. I'll send it to you if you want it. And Billy, and you can, whatever you want to do with it. It's got a lot of colors and stuff, so I apologize for that. But anyway, it's kind of how I do work. All right. Kevin, I created some slides. Be happy to go through them. That's your call.
Well, what do they pertain to?
The OBOB budget.
Okay.
Let me see where we are. I'll just give a heads up to everybody. Assuming that Rocky Salperto and the staff at the Orangetown News, I've been writing a few articles. The one that I submitted last week, it's basically this, really, just so that people know what we spend our money on. Because I think PJ Shanley, you were the one who encouraged me to consider doing this, so I did. I think it comes out Friday if it makes it into the paper. And Kevin and two Kevins, I quoted you again. By the way, there's the education total. It's about 63% of our budget. And then there's other things too, right? Like, this is the town, right? So as you can see from this, it's not a lot of secrets. Employee benefits, just like we've talked about for years, and education. These are the ones that obviously are the ones that are going up. And then when you do, when you dive a little deeper, employee benefits, you can see that it's gone up $1.7 million just over the last 5 years, which is a lot, obviously. And the pension contributions have gone up significantly as well over the last 8 years. Again, $1.7 million roughly. We can get you the data if you need it. And so that's what happens on the benefit side. And on the education side, the town has invested steadily over the last 8 years, and some of the student population has declined overall. when you include Amity and Orange, although Orange is definitely going up recently. And the town's financial commitment to education is, I mean, to me, it's pretty visible there. So in any event, that's kind of that. The standard thing I'd like to mention to the board, so I'll just speak to the board and staff and the town. Again, what our responsibilities are, growing requests for services, et cetera, and how to balance that versus taxes. And most of our revenue comes from taxes. I believe John Cifarelli, if I read it right, it was 91.9 last year, fiscal year 2021. So our second responsibility is always to check out, just like we've been doing tonight, how to understand how money is spent and potentially look for ways to improve more bang for our buck. We always talk about this. We talk about, you know, the difference between, oh, it's only 4%, and I had no idea, and you guys have seen this chart in other years, so I'm not putting it out there because you happen to come in there or actually higher than 4%, but there is a huge difference between a 1% per year over 10 years and a 4%, and this just visualizes that. And one of the things that was in the prior version of this Orangetown News, you probably saw it if you read it last time in February, that if you look and see a difference over a 10-year period, you can see that you'd be paying $94,404 in taxes, and at 1% you'd be saying $80,968, which is less by $13,436. Effectively, what it means, and it doesn't mean, you know, therefore you only spend 1%. It means it's a highly tangible objective to strive for, because if you were able to do it, the 1% household would pay no taxes for almost 2 years. So like years 9 and 10, you'd pay no taxes compared to the 4% household. So it's a worthy objective to strive for. Doesn't mean you have to go there. It just means wouldn't it be great? You know, that kind of. You know, we have a triple credit rating. One of the things that this means is we pay less in our bond rate, significantly less than other towns. And there's various other factors that you've seen this before, the credit rating. You know, good economic development can only help because you get more revenue, having a solid fund balance. All these things drive toward getting a AAA credit rating. Okay, in terms of the budget, these are the similar observations, Vince and team, that I mentioned last year. I'll just mention them briefly again. People have been coming to Orange for at least for as long as I can recall, because of the community and the school system. I mean, how many times? I mean, even in the, I think I wrote it in the article. You know, I was aware in 1982 when I was looking for a house that I bought in '83 that Orange had a good school system, and that's why people wanted to live here. But I've even heard from people, Billy Crowd, for example, he came here in the late 80s. He told me the same thing. A lot of people coming here now, same thing. And I've even heard people tell me that they did that in the 60s. So that's one observation I'd like to mention. This has been happening for a long time. The second thing I'd like to observe is, you know, sometimes, and I can remember when my kids are little, you get caught up into it so bad. You know, our goal is to take these youngsters and get them through a process of education from K all the way through 12. And we wish to optimize the overall experience, not so much what happens in grade 4 or grade 8. And it's hard. We're all parents. We want so much the best for our kids. But I just want to observe that, you know, it's the end product we're trying to get to. And like anything else in life, it has bumps along the way. And we're all human, right? So I just want to mention that that's in my mind, we wish to optimize that objective. And the third thing I'd like to say, and it's the same one I said last year, that class size has varied over the years, and the students of Orange have always achieved very well. Myself, I only speak for myself. You know, 2 children, maybe one could have been in a closet, would learn, and maybe another needed a lot of help and not quite sure whether at that moment in time he was ready to learn. So There's a lot of different variety there, and it's not necessarily all class size. With that in mind, this is the chart I already went through. We don't need to go through it again. These are the student-teacher ratios in the overall budget that's proposed. You can see the less number in Mary L. Tracy where the K is, and the other two are pretty much evened. The overall average is about 17.2 if I've done the math or I've inputted to Excel to do the math right. This is one we've already used and leveraged, so thank you, Dr. Scott Petty and staff are educating us more on that. This is the second piece of that file that we reviewed earlier. This is one I also showed last year. I'll mention it again. And this is what you're observing here. If you're new to this chart, you have 3 columns. The left is grade K, the center is grade 2, and the right is grade 3. What was done back then, and again, it is a years back benchmark, but I think it's pretty indicative.
Grade 5, Jim. Grade 5, not 3.
Wait, oh, thank you. Thank you for the edit. If only I could read my own writing. And you can see where Orange stood. And in fact, I didn't create this chart. The superintendent at the time did of your prior person, Vince. And you can see both Orange in 2012 and 2014 are in it. And then you can see the Durg average in the gray there, and I've highlighted the Durg average underneath, or hopefully I typed it in right. And so that's data, that's reality in the surrounding communities, right? So what some people may not know, and I want to just state it so you're aware of it. When I started with the Board of Finance in 2005, what's that, 16 years ago maybe? The Orange BOE had a certain student-teacher ratio. The Durg average you got from the prior chart, I just averaged the two. And now we have your budget here as presented. Talking with my teammates, I just want to say one more thing. That I believe, and I want you to know that I believe this, doesn't make it right, but I think that there's a roadmap opportunity that exists for the Orange Board of Education's budget consistent with historical Orange norms and Durg schools that could save money for all taxpayers. I think last year, Kevin Houlihan, you mentioned to me that even in Woodbridge, their numbering was 22 per class in almost all their grades. We all want the best for our kids, and we all trying to juggle, particularly here in our role in the Board of Finance, for a budget that balances those things of things that demands on the budget, overall budget that leads to taxes and the ability and willingness to pay. And I think you can see from this chart, there might be some food for thought. And like last year, Bill Kraut and Dr. Scott Petty, I will just, between you and me, I'll give you what my thoughts are on that roadmap, and you can do with what you wish with that. So in summary, I believe that prudent government spending is its own reward, highly tangible, objective to strive for. Point 2, that Orange and Amity have had excellent and deserved educational reputations for decades, as witnessed by back in the 60s, 70s, 80s when I was coming here, and more recently for sure. All budget components, whether it be OBOE, Amity, the town, all of them need to be mindful of their impact on all taxpayers. That's why we do these budget books with everybody. And we have our own challenges in the town that we still need to address in that component of the budget. Finally, I think that a roadmap opportunity does exist for the Orange BOE consistent with historical Orange norms, consistent with Durg schools and neighboring town schools, that would save money for all taxpayers. That's what I got. Questions? Okay, nothing. I will unshare. And there we are.
What I said at the beginning of the meeting is, I know the hard work the Board of Ed did and Dr. Scarpetti on this budget. I know if we look back over the past couple of years, they've been around just over 2%. Because we've, the town and the Orange Board of Ed have kind of taken hits, not to pick on our friend in Woodbridge, but because of over budgeting in our other district. And a lot of this is technology driven. I think a lot of, other than the salaries, the balance is special ed and technology, which with the current environment, I don't know if anybody has a solution to, reduce those expenses. I just think that's the year we're in, and we have to make those investments. But I'll leave it for anybody else who has any other questions for the board or Dr. Scarpetti. But I appreciate their hard work. The one thing I am disappointed in is, as Jim referred to earlier, is I was hoping some of these technology issues were more of a capital nature and we could pay for them somewhere else instead of from the general fund. But so be it. They're ongoing costs. So I'll leave it at that for me. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments, but I thank everyone on the Board of Ed side for their work in this very trying time. Silence.
Silence.
I want to thank them as well. Dr. Scarpetti and Bill and the whole Board of Ed did a terrific job, and you always do. And thank you for coming out and coming up with another terrific presentation.
I certainly would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree too.
It was very good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would agree with that. That they've obviously have put a lot of thought into it and done a good job in preparing everything. I think, Kevin, you kind of hit it on the head. That's the kind of stuff that those kinds of things you just can't avoid. But again, thanks to them. Yep.
Yeah, I particularly liked hearing about, I don't know, what would I call it? I think I would call it the proactive initiative of right soon when school got out. I always call it creating a team, committee, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants over 4% as your slideshow, but with what's been going on, I mean, we'll talk about it, but I really, they, from the day school got out last year to what's been going on, and you can see going through here, the things that have been reduced, the thought process, the hard work, and I know Bill and Kraut and Dr. Scarpetti they're not coming in saying, all right, we're coming in at 4, but our real number's 2. That's not how they operate. They're coming in with what they want and need, and we'll go from there. But again, hats off for everything that you've done since last June or last March when we shut down. Because
I was going to add something there too, Kev. I wanted to commend them for doing a terrific job keeping our kids safe during this ridiculously challenging time. I remember dropping my daughter off the first day of school, and she was in the back seat, literally so excited nervous, excited, just couldn't wait to get back to school and see her friends. And, with the exception of a couple weeks, school, Peck Place, all the schools have been working like clockwork. So job well done there, really.
And in those couple of weeks that they went remote were because of potential family gatherings. And I think
Correct.
that was a brilliant thing to do. It was
Correct.
the right thing to do.
It was more precautionary. So, again, terrific job there.
Yeah, and no college or teachers programs or anything prepare you for anything that they've gone through for the last, it's a year this week. So it's needless to say, trying times, but they've done an excellent job. They should be commended for that. It's, like you don't prepare for this, but you deal with it, and they've done a tremendous job.
Yeah, to your point, there's no playbook from 1918.
No.
I remember,
You remember 1918?
I was going to ask
No.
you, remember
I remember last March because my wife's a teacher, and the anxiety and the frustration of going remote and everything, and the questions, and I'd be just like, I don't have any answers because we've never done
Yeah,
this.
we've never dealt with this before.
And your IT department, your school, it's figure it out as you moved along, and they did a great job.
Well, if I may, thank you for those compliments for the finance members. And again, not to reiterate what I said earlier, but and not to use this term team lightly, but it was a group effort from the get-go. And really all the shareholders that were involved, like I said, from parents to staff to Board of Ed members to all of you, first select everyone that I mentioned, even I'm thinking about Father Norman at Holy Infant who lent us furniture in order to devise classes. And again, Mr. Shanley was kind enough to make that connection. So it was just really of when people said, hey, if you need anything, let us know. And we did that. And they came in tenfold of helping us in any way they can. And it really says a lot. And again, I only talk about my experience and not to compare other districts, but I do think it sets Orange aside about this community that we work in and that we're always trying to evolve with giving feedback, even if it's at times critical feedback in order for us to continually to improve. Thank you to all of you for helping us not only this year, but in years in the past, because we've set up certain foundations for us to be successful. And it's built on from previous years too. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Does anybody have any final questions or anything for Dr. Scarpetti before we move on?
I'm good.
Kevin, can we take a 2-minute break?
If somebody makes a motion for that, we certainly can.
I second, third, and fourth.
But before we do that, let's thank you, Doctor, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay, so then is there a motion to take a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Is there a
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, item number 5, budget discussion. John, we have any, I know you sent out a bunch of stuff previously, but any new developments here?
First, let me ask Joe, did you attend the Amity meeting tonight?
Well, actually, yes, I did. They were voting on it tonight, and I'm sure it will pass. I haven't heard. I typically don't hear when the meeting's over, but I'm sure that I would think it would pass at the 1.8%.
Okay.
So you don't think any of their members were going to try to move it back up?
I don't think so.
All right, so I'll get that new number and I'll put it in our summary expense report. We already have the number from the Orange Board in there. I have to make a couple other changes that I know. I have to put the bond in for Race for Country Club, which will increase it a little bit. And then if you want Audrey and I to do what we've done in the past, we could go through and pull out some of the capital in it and see if we could scrub it a little more and present
Absolutely.
that to you next Monday night.
That
Yeah,
sounds good.
I think the capital, because we have the capital fund, we have to talk. I know we don't have the audit yet for this year, but I know we're gonna have a surplus, and we could talk about moving some of that. We can talk about, I don't know where we stand in the current year, where we did have, and I don't have it in front of me, and I should. We have use of fund balance in the current budget. I don't know where we stand as to how much of that we're going to actually use, because I'd like to roll that forward because of the year we're in, and try to come up with any way we can to mitigate these increases.
Well, because of the Amity surplus, I don't think we're really going to need to use that. What was it, 300,000 we put in? I forget the
Right.
number.
Yeah, that's the number.
I don't think we're going to need to have to use it, so I would say that's there to be used. Quite frankly, if I go back and put everybody's budget just about back to where it was last year, the nickel and dimes isn't going to add up. I don't think. So keep that in mind.
And my other thought was,
Well,
the police.
John, you're going to go through, John Cifarelli, you're going to go through the exercise though, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'll do next week. I'll present it with both the pullout on capital and where I think we could knock everybody down, and I'll give you a sheet with that.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the analysis you did. That was very helpful. Of the over and under.
You probably won't get that sheet from me until Monday and next week, or Monday night at the meeting, because I am going into training for the rest of the week. So it's going to have to be done on the weekend. What do you want me to do with Dr. Scarpetti? Or Kevin, do you want to talk to him? I don't know how you want to handle that.
Yeah, I can talk to him. But back to the budget with like the police cars. Do we have any chance, like we've had in the past, of using current year budget to pay for some of those cars?
Well, that's some of the things I'm going to pull out for capital. I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to say we'll determine later where we'll fund that from. I got a couple ideas, but we don't need to pick where it comes from now. We could get a little later in the year. In Mark Brancasi's budget is $225,000 for the reevaluation.
Right.
I think we put that in capital. And then I gotta look at a couple of other budgets and see what else we can pull out in capital.
Okay. And then,
I mean, most of the town budget isn't anything we could cut. It's a lot of salary increases, quite frankly. The contracts that were settled, and then the benefits that went with it. If you look at the pensions and the 401ks, those two defined benefit plans continue to go up as the people retire, and their portion of the 7% doesn't go in, and we've also been dropping the rate of return every year since I've been here, and that causes it to go up, and you'll hear about that in the May joint meeting.
but yeah, no, that's a problem. It's actually a problem where I've seen other towns vote to make that number go back up so they don't have to contribute as much to the pension. I am not suggesting we do that.
I was going to say that is not the answer.
No, it's not. That's, you know, and those, you know, one of them's our neighbor, you know, off the Merritt Parkway, past Woodbridge, not Woodbridge. And you know, they're within a year, they're going to be taken over by the MARP because they're just out of
If they did a 10% rate of return, they'd still be in trouble.
Yeah.
They also floated bonds to make their pension whole, and then they still not contributing the actuarial amount that they're supposed to contribute. So, you know, they're in trouble.
And the problem is we do the right thing and we're going to end up paying for it because they get state money.
Right.
I mean, it's ludicrous, but
You're right. By being good, you get penalized.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Hey, John?
I'm sure you'd like to be in a brand new town hall. I mean, they built one, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I must have suboptimal internet here at the house because I'm starting to get your internet is unstable statements over the last 45 minutes. So I apologize if some of my verbal stuff came across suboptimal.
You need some more. You need some bigger bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Come from the
I need
school.
10 gigs and it lasts forever. Hey, listen, I have already done a bit of this analysis that you just described. We have a huge challenge in front of us. What I found out from John, because I was kind of, oh, John, look, I've done this and now I talked, I called John or somehow we talked. And, I was just, I called Brain Casey. I found out that grand list goes up by 0.7. All right. So my brain is working this way. Oh, okay. If we can get spending at 3 and we have 0.7 on grand list, and if other revenue remains the same, then a tax increase of 2.3. Not great, but that's where I was. John informed me that, what'd you use for debt service? I said, well, what was in the sheet? We go down by, I think it was, 38,000 or something like that, John, right? He says, oh, yeah, but that's before I created that before we had the approval by the voters for the Racebrook Country Club. And that was a big number. I think 500 was the number, 500,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
That's an estimate, yes.
Okay, so it's, grenade close, right? So I said, wow. I would like to get to you, Kevin, and I will do so with that roadmap that I just mentioned in the last presentation. But I do think we have to look at our town side of this budget. We've spent a lot of energy and time, I have for sure, over many years regarding Amity. And I have a few things, observations that I did over this weekend by looking extremely closely at the OBOE the last 2-3 years. There's some stuff in there I just don't quite get. But anyway, but I do think we have to look closer at the town side. I don't know whether it's small numbers that we have to, or a harder look. Because we have a fantastic challenge amongst us. I wished a lot of this material could be classified as capital, as I think I mentioned earlier in the OBOE presentation. But I'm not hearing, Kevin, I'm not hearing your voice actually rising up when they say, oh, we could do this. Oh, we could put that in capital. I was here, I didn't. So I have the feeling that there's not as much there that we can. So we have a big challenge in front of us. That's what I want to say.
I wouldn't be adverse, and there's a lot of things to talk about because we have a significant fund balance. I don't want it to grow personally because,
correct.
It's there. Whether that bond payment, since we're going to start getting lease payments in the future, we can talk about part of it coming out wherever. I'm looking at the tax credit sheet, John, that was given to me. I don't know if this went out to everybody or not.
I think so.
But I don't understand. I thought we were done with UI, but they're listed as they get a credit and they're in the 6th year. I thought it was a 5-year program. And
it's a 7 years, Kev.
At 7 years.
Yeah.
So there's the UI alone in this year's budget
Oh, that's in the mill rate thing. I can bring that up.
It's $282,000 in credits for this year that they're not paying in tax, but they will be paying at least another 140 next year and another 140 the following year. I thought they were done.
Another thing with UI, and I might as well say it because Mark has said it to me. We lost $10 million. We lost $10 million in personal property from them.
Their aggregate number?
$10 million at the mill rate. So,
well,
300,000.
About 327. About 327.
How did we lose it? Did he move out of town or what happened?
They claimed that they had an error in past years.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, man.
And I don't want to say too much more about that. If you want to talk to me, call me, please.
Okay, so I should not mention what Frank Casey told me?
I wouldn't say it on the air then.
All right, thank you. I could share, I'm going to share something, team, because Kevin was, this is the mill rate chart. You've seen it before. Let me go to the top of the page. You've seen it before, right? So this is what John is, this is our, like version 1, if you want to call it V1. But down on the bottom here is what I think Kevin was referring to, maybe. It's the UI incentive, which I'll put in yellow. Is that the one you're referring to, Kev?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
282.
I think there's another one that shows exactly how much more in taxes we're going to get, though. I think it's on the PDF version of it.
Well, I can open up the PDF versions, but those are a little hard to. Did you send out grand list, Frank Casey?
Yeah. It's penciled in.
Right.
Calculation. Is that this thing? Oh, here it is here. Okay. Yeah, we have to, I'd really encourage us when we're doing Excel files to stop sending PDFs, like make it a rule. Is this the one, Pat, that you?
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's your additional tax, $500,000 at the current rate.
Right.
At the new grand list number.
Yeah, but listen, we have to do this a certain way, gang. Use Excel, make those comments in a box in Excel, and, pencil and, subtraction, and that's what Excel's for.
But Jim, I got to use these to go to printers and stuff, and I don't want to have comments like that in there.
Oh, absolutely. All I'm saying, we're not going to printers with this right now, John, right? All I'm saying.
No, but then I gotta take them out though, and I don't like sending everybody Excel sheets where everybody could start playing with them too. That could cause a problem.
Well, that's our job, John.
But if they come back to me and I get one that's wrong or blows out a formula, I'm in trouble. I can't check every time you guys change chance that you guys change the numbers on there.
Oh, no. You misunderstand. You have the ultimate version, okay? When we do analysis and examination, you can't do it in PDF. But nothing is valid until it gets into your version. You're the control on that. Absolutely, 100%. It has to be that way. But sending out some of this stuff with, scratch marks over here, it almost creates more work. It does create more work. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, you're saying that number over there is that 489 something. I'll put it a little higher so I can see it. This 48711, what are we talking about here?
Very simple. That's the new grand list at the current tax. So what that's saying is if you wanted to remain at the current mill rate, that's what the additional tax would be.
Yeah, we would, our overall budget increase could be 480,000 and we stay the same.
Right,
And that's impossible because we have a bond that's that much.
right, absolutely.
Oh,
And pretty much the rest of our income is, revenue is going to stay the same. I don't see any real changes in any of the line items there.
so this
We
is
don't have-
handwriting.
We don't have any real permits going out, for big buildings, and right now we don't have anybody moving into town.
Well, we have some major projects that aren't on here yet. We have the hotel with their tax break of 154,000, but we don't have, in the current grand list, we don't have the new FedEx facility. We don't have the, there was a couple other buildings, I think, that were expanded.
Yeah.
In the,
FedEx is in there, I believe.
well, they would qualify for this tax break, so I don't see them.
They haven't applied. Let's not talk about that.
John, could you do this for me?
Yes.
Where is the math on the handwritten 67? Tell me, what is the number times the mill rate that got to you to the 67,755,918?
The 37.74 of the mill rate. That number is 67 is off your last year budget. That's your tax revenue on last year's budget.
Okay. And
at the new grand list, we'd be at 68 million.
Right. Actually, if you had the final version of this report, that would be the number in that column there.
last year.
Last year.
Okay. All right.
And tonight's not the night to go into it.
Yep.
But John, I disagree, or I think something in my mind doesn't make sense if that number includes FedEx with their buildings and their trucks. If UI, we picked up more taxes from them this year on both sides, the 180 and the 100 parcels, that's 282 this year. Last year it had to be 3 or 482, whatever the math is. So it just seems with some of the things going on, I know we lost some personal property, but it just doesn't seem like 480 would be an all-inclusive number.
And Jim, do you have Mark's report?
Yes, I do. I can open it.
That I sent us. Can you pull up the top 10 taxpayers on that?
I can. It's right here.
I think FedEx is on there.
Let's take a peek.
Yeah, FedEx number 6.
He paid 15 million in taxes. No, 15
in grand list.
Taxes would be this.
That's their grand list number.
Right. So it's the 515 over here.
Yeah, 511.
511. Okay.
Yeah, Jim, could you scroll over more?
Which way, Kev?
The way you were just going, yeah, to the right.
Okay. Okay. It just took a.
The pictures are hiding the tax money.
Yeah, we really needed it less of a thing so you can see that it's FedEx, right?
All right, so they're going to pay us 511, and they're a new taxpayer. That something doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm over.
Your instinct's almost always right, Kevin. I've been around you for a while. Instincts are typical.
Okay. So Jim, do you have the previous year's top 10 taxpayer?
We certainly do.
Let's see what the drop is in United Illuminating.
Well, I said that we certainly do, but we have to. We may have to qualify this because we never had the we never had the town budget hearing last year, and therefore we didn't create the files that would be required.
No, I did because it's in the book.
Yeah, but you might not have sent them to me, right?
No, I usually send your
No,
brain
right,
case.
yeah, I hear you, and I'm looking for it right in 2020. So if anybody sees a Brain Casey thing or something that looks like it, just yell. That's what I'm doing. We were pretty busy, if you remember, with that whole.
Well, will you have the town budget hearing not held, Jim? Do you think in that folder you have the actual last year's budget book? Economic
I got the
development.
budget sector charts. What I did is I created a, as if I was going to have a town budget hearing, or I created it early. Look, I created one in March, getting ready, and then we, of course, didn't have it. So, I mean, I can open up what's there.
Oh, you know what?
I've got a hard copy of it.
Do you? Well, read what, see if FedEx is on it. I think that's.
United Illuminating, Fairfield Grand Reserve, Connecticut Light and Power, Southern Connecticut Gas, Woo LH LLC, Orange VA, Orange Plaza, RNF Orange, HD Connecticut, and Hartford Lodging Partners.
Sounds
Does
like
it show what the tax was for United Illuminating?
The taxable valuation was 119 million.
There you go.
10 million.
There's your 10 million right
There's
there
your
that
10
we
million,
lost.
yeah.
So
I
you
saved every
lost.
piece of paper that has ever crossed my desk.
Good job, Pat.
But still, all right. FedEx is brand new. They're in at 511. We subtract 300 from UI. And so we say hypothetically FedEx is in at 211. So that means the rest of the UI phase in, and everything else is only 280,000. That still doesn't seem right to me.
I think the cars went down too, though. Look at Jim, go back to the mill rate calculation again.
This one here, John, or the Excel?
Yeah, that one. That one. Let's look at the cars. Nope, go down a little bit. Oh, that won't tell us unless.
No, here's what we do, John. John, here, you do a great job because in your mill rate on the Excel, you have the last year's one here. So we'll be able to do this real easy. So here's the motor vehicle, right? 148, well, 148 net, right?
And it gives us $4.8 million. What was it last year?
There you go. That's exactly what I was going to do. It was 42, and that gave us 4.6.
So it actually
we
went up.
There.
Yeah, so we went up, Kevin Houlihan. We can get a an exact.
Went up about 200,000.
So something's wrong. Because now we're back to 500 just with FedEx and just with motor vehicles. We're up 500,000.
Okay, let's do all three of them as an exercise then.
Here's what we'll do, John. We'll take this and we'll subtract what we have in the exact same spot over here on the prior year. All good?
All good.
So that's every
Okay, so now
we'll
let's
up to
do it
personal
that way.
property.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go to personal property, right? Go back to the prior year. All good. And so we'll grab this one. So personal property went down, Kev. And I don't think we need to do a real property, do we? Or we can.
I can't see the decreases. We got to scroll over. You got to slide it over a little bit because our pictures are there on my screen anyway.
Okay, how about there, Kev? Is that better?
Yep. And now I guess you got to hit whatever on that.
I'm gonna do the other one. Yeah. Although this one's just a function of Okay. So there's the 3, and if we add those 3 up, right? So let's just auto sum it this way. There's John's 487. That's what I mean, John, by rather than doing, pencil. Your brain did this calculation somehow, somewhere, but if you sent it out this way, everybody could see it, see? So this is compare 20, what, 20, ugh, 21, 22, violation on me here, Joe, to 2021. That's what this is. So squeeze this baby this way, I think we can do it. Yeah, there we go. So that tells us what this column is, right? And Kevin, there's your number that we just saw John calculate manually the other day, or write it in manually. He went through this process.
Right, but I'm thinking something's missing on the top line. If our motor vehicles went up almost 200,000,
correct?
We added FedEx. It seems like something's missing in the real property grand list, because UI is phasing in. We added 500,000 in tax for FedEx.
Right.
So the property value has to be in that regular grand list net of the 1.8. It maybe, again, maybe I'm overtired, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
All right, why don't we give John the opportunity to fix it?
With John, Mark, because I just think if we added the real estate of FedEx, we added the hotel, more of the phase in, UI phased in more, but with those three combined, forget about the cars at 192. I don't care about that. We're only picking up 380 with FedEx. It's like, what else dropped off there?
What about Amazon?
Amazon didn't have their CO by October 1st.
Okay, but we should be getting something from them, shouldn't we?
You'll get for the building that was there, but you're not going to get any of the vehicles or equipment inside until next year.
And there's an awful lot.
Just a quick question about the vehicles. Do they have to be registered in Orange, or?
They are supposed to be.
Okay, because I was following one from Maryland today.
Yeah, we understand they have a few different states on them. The First Select is looking into that.
Okay. I was going to stop him and make a citizen's arrest.
Kevin Houlihan, I have a feeling, and I have yet myself not read this, but there's a bunch of files. This is all what I put in this thing called Grand List Brincase. And I don't know if John just sent them to me or everybody got them.
We all have them.
Okay. I suspect, but I don't know for sure, that a lot of the questions we are asking or suspicions we have, not that there isn't something sitting out there, there might be, and that's our job to investigate that for sure. I mean, it's the Holmes guy looking with a microscope, right? But this report I have yet to read myself, and I just started kind of eyeballing it as we were discussing, and it was prompted by your comments, Kevin. And I suspect that in here is some stuff that would shed more light on it, or maybe not, maybe ask more questions. But I'm not seeing Brincase give us this level of material in the past. So
we'll go through it, but Jim, I will not to bring up past history, but you and I years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We're told we actually had a surplus.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You and I didn't feel good about it.
On the case.
It made sense, and guess what happened?
Yeah.
We were short $1 million.
Yeah, with a week to go.
Well, I'll talk to Mark tomorrow and voice your concerns, Kevin, and
it just doesn't
take another look at it.
Feel right. I might be completely wrong. I just can't understand with FedEx on, UI phasing in, Aurora, it's a smaller dollar amount, but other things, it just doesn't feel right that's, especially then when Jim did his analysis, we're actually picking up $190,000 in motor vehicles. So, like I said.
I mean, the
I'm
only,
human,
the
I
only
make
thing-
mistakes, but it just feels wrong.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is FedEx might have been in partly in the previous year. I don't know exactly how that works. I didn't think they come on the grand list until they got their CO, but I could be wrong.
No, I agree with you on that, but maybe we're both wrong. But I just,
So
I didn't
we
think
need
we
more,
had any FedEx revenue last year.
Kev, so we need to connect with Frank Casey. Now, John, you've already stated that you have training tomorrow, right? You know, I mean,
Yeah, but
I'm
I'll get-
retired and available. Kevin, what's your schedule look like? I assume Mark's in tomorrow. Let's just make that assumption.
Hey, my schedule's a disaster. But if he's around, I could be reached. We could have a phone call.
Okay. Give me windows when would be better than worse for you.
Afternoon is far better than the morning. Tomorrow.
Okay. No specific time then?
No. Nope.
Okay.
I don't have a Zoom meeting until 5:30, so afternoons I'll make myself available. Because I'll just be sitting here working.
Okay, good. One thing that John and I discussed, and this was prompted, Pat, by your nice work a while back, was if we're going to be looking at a bunch of material and using this as our budget document, one of the things we have done in the past is as we're looking at the department's request, okay, and we already know what the amount is and the percentage change, we often have looked at a different document to be able to say, where are they now in their spending, which is one of the things you did, over and under in your analysis, right, Pat? Now, John,
Yes, sir.
this was the document, and I'll just role model it now, that potentially would be great if we could just put in where we stand. I'll just make some lines here so we get where we stand as of, I don't know, I'll just put in today's date just as Eagles, right? Here, all right? And put this information so we have all the information on one sheet. And I was willing to sit down or do it myself if someone gives me the data. All right, I don't mind, investing a couple hours, do that, 2-3 hours, whatever it is. Because that saves us all heartache and time, really, when we actually look more closely at the town budget, right? This was what I was talking to you about the other day. I hope it's the same idea as you remember. We did have the conversation, right? I think that would be very helpful for this team. What do you guys think?
Well, actually, I started out thinking that I could convert the budget report to something that made some sense in Excel and plug in the numbers there, but it didn't work.
Agreed. And I'm sure, well, I am willing to get the most recent data, and either if that thing that we get in PDF and expenses can be downloaded into Excel would make life a little easier.
Yeah.
I would manually figure out a way to get this done. And John's in training, and everybody can chip in on a team, right? So, and I can do that tomorrow or the next day. And I think that will help us for next Monday. And John, then I would hand that document to you so that when you make any adjustments on any of the categories that make up this sheet, you control the ultimate version, right? You have to. You're in charge of the department, right? So it's not to preclude you from that, but I'm offering to do that. Kevin, do you think it would be helpful?
I do.
Okay, then I'll do it. John, I just need the most recent data tomorrow when you can.
Yeah, I'll
if you can
send it to-
download it to Excel, don't try to go crazy if it not know how to reformat it. If it's in Excel, I should be able to figure it out. But if not, if we could just print out the most recent version of the whatever's been inputted, all right, and you know, all the other stuff we always talk about. Oh, it's 3 payments. Oh, we pay it at the front. Oh, we pay at the end. We'll talk about that by line item. But to get this information into our town Excel, we got to do it because this is
Okay, I'll send that to you tomorrow morning sometime.
okay. Expect it. I'll probably come over town hall if I have any issue whatsoever. Okay. You know, you're a mile away. So
John's going to change the locks.
yeah, I'll help them. But we have to have. It's going to cost us all hours of time if one person doesn't do this. So I'm just going to do it.
I don't know, Jim, how good you are at downloading stuff into Excel. I know I don't personally know how to do that, but if you know how to do that, some of the numbers I give you are going to line up. You might, instead of having to type it, you might be able to download it in.
No, I'm not that good at Excel on item 1. If it looks like this and there's a code that I can go by, all right, I will figure out a way. So you can download it into an Excel document. Tell me what the as of date of the data is. You might give Paul a heads up that you need to call him or something. But my anticipation is you know, whatever the total is for selectmen, it's going in this box right here. Whatever the total is at that point in time for assessor goes in that box right there. And if I can copy and paste from an Excel chart, or if I can copy a whole section under general government and punch it in, I'll figure that out. I'm not going to work.
Just thinking about it though, this is a summary budget, so we're not going to be looking at all the line items on it. I just realized that, but then we could go back.
That's right.
Look at the line items. Okay.
Okay. Well, in that case, then we probably want to send the Excel file that you're going to send me to everybody, because then they will then say, oh, this one looks, and then you go back and go to the other tab, and I'll put the tab right next to it. So whereas right now, for example, we're seeing, you know, budget summary, Board of Finance, this, when you send me a new one, right, I'm going to, you know, let's just say you send me something that's what is currently called sheet 1. I'm just going to put it right next to it so we can go back and forth, you know?
Okay.
Because this one here will have all the details of selectmen. This one here will just have the summary. And through the whole document.
Okay, gotcha.
Jim,
Roger
when you finish this, if you want to send it to me, and I can play and see if I can put the information that I have into this sheet as well, even if it's in hidden columns.
No, wait, I think what you can do is this, Pat. This would be great. You already know what you looked at, and you sent out that sheet, which I reformatted, right?
Yeah.
You can do it, and that will be in the detail. So it has under selectmen, it has the 9 things under selectmen, and that will be in this sheet here, right? So in this sheet here, you can then just highlight over, all right, or under, you know, green, over,
Got it.
light, make them light colors, because when you print them, you can't read them if you have too much color. So then you can come in and say, or send out another version or whatever you want to do to the team. All right. But then, you know, and format it so it prints right and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, just thinking, you know, it's like inviting somebody over your house. You want to make it easier for them. So, and we can work together on that as well. For sure.
Okay.
You do it's all good. But that will be the second step of this two-step process.
That works. And then, you know, and then we've got John's notes on the side, which are incredibly helpful.
Yeah. Exactly. Agreed. I think I put you in Pat's analysis. I think it's over here. Maybe not. Maybe
Version 2 Orange BOF expense review.
Say what, Pat?
It looks like version
Budget
2.
analysis
RTO
here.
expense
No,
review.
no, this has to be renamed. My brain didn't catch it up right away, see? Because I didn't put your name in there, but it's the expense to budget analysis that you did, what we
Yeah.
called it, right?
Right.
Now that I got your name in the folder, next time I look, I won't have that slight, oh, there it is, right there, you know? So anyway, okay, so John, that's the next step. And I agree with PJ, we should always, even if we're not going to be handling them in the meeting, keep that on the agenda all the time, so we never forget it, because we just have to know. So Kevin Houlihan and team, if I place this up here now, we now have a meeting next Monday.
Correct.
Is that an OGAT or a non-OGAT meeting?
I think because it's Zoom, we're going to be on OGAT.
Have to be on OGAT. We have to be open.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's our regular meeting, monthly meeting also.
Right.
All right. So when we have working sessions, we don't have to have OGAT, if I remember
Well,
right.
we do because we're remote. Because people would have the right to come to town hall, and since we're not there, we're online. They have the right to, we basically have to be live.
Okay. Well, I'd rather be together actually, but no.
I've had my second shot.
That's good.
Yeah.
I had my first on Thursday, so April 1st, I go for the second one. John, for Monday, I know now you're in training and everything else, but if possible, could we get, I know the audit's not done on anything else, but a projected fund balance and the amount that we have in our capital reserve fund? You there?
Okay. Yeah. I'm writing down.
Okay, and the other thing is you follow things on social media, and apparently there was discussion of tennis courts at High Plains, and there were comments made that it's going out to bid and to be approved by the Board of Selectmen at their April meeting. I thought we did approve something with capital last year for the tennis courts at High Plains, but I don't have it in front of me.
No,
What?
we never did that.
We did not.
We never
Okay.
got to blow up the thing, but that.
So are they putting us in a situation where they're going to come and ask us for X dollars out of our capital account that we need to account for?
I believe that's going to be covered by LoCIP, but what will be coming to you in the April meeting? It's going out to bid now. We did get a credit to replace the bad leaking pipes and the insulation in the tunnels at High Plains. And the Board of Selectmen will probably approve that next month. And that'll be I want to say about a $200,000 capital expense that we're going to have to cover.
Okay, and that's been at a bigger number on the capital plan for years, but I think we've just
what happened was UI gave us a big credit, energy credit on that. So that's why that's getting done the way it is. I think it's about half of what our cost is.
So although it's going to cost us money, it's a very good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Britton will explain that further to you when he comes for the money.
When will that be, John?
I believe he's tentatively scheduled to go on the April Board of Selectmen meeting. So depending when we have a meeting in April, if we have our regular meeting, it'll be then, or we may have to have a special meeting. I don't know. I'm not sure yet.
If we wanted to, can we hold meetings live? like we used to?
I would frown against that until the governor lists the proposals, because we would have to social distance in here, and we would be limited to the number of people that could come in.
So we can go out to eat at a restaurant at the same table, sit down, and when you're not moving, not wear masks. But we can't do that in the basement of town hall?
Have to social distance.
And just because you can go to dinner indoors, I won't. So that's
Doesn't mean you should, right?
That's me.
And let's be honest though, our budget workshop meetings aren't exactly a big draw for people.
No. They're not.
Okay, I asked the question, you guys answered.
It's up to you guys. I mean,
Well,
come to
Kevin's
town
already
hall
answered it.
every day.
His preference is, you know.
No, but we've been offered by Chairman Kraut and Superintendent Scarpetti to use their room at Mariella if we ever wanted to, because it's huge.
Yep.
So if we choose, we could do that.
I like the in-person meetings too, especially with the workshops. I think it's a little more convenient, but and if we could social distance there, that might be.
The Board of Ed meeting is huge. Their room, we've been in there. It's huge.
Yep, it's a good room.
It is a good room.
Projector too, so you know.
Are they? I don't think they're letting the public in though, are they?
Did they just come before us with a 4% budget?
I thought they offered it to us at one point in time.
Yes, they have. They
Hey,
will.
John,
We
you
could
ask about that.
We could. I'll reach
I
out.
mean, they are the only. Let me say this: they are the only department or committee that's meeting live in the town. Nobody else is.
Hey guys, wouldn't it be nice to have the OBOE budget match the Amity budget now? This number's looking pretty good, 1.8, isn't it?
Hey, Joe.
Yes. Yes, how may I help you, Mr.
What
Lane?
has been the Amity budget's average increase over the last 5 years?
Exactly.
2.5.
No.
It was 10.
Budget about 7.
Yeah.
No, Joe. I can show you the picture in a minute.
We don't have to go on a conversation. Okay, we got to prove the minutes still, don't we?
Well, you left an impression that's not accurate, Joe. So I have to. The Amity budget.
Listen, I voted no, Jim. I
know. If I didn't have the interruptions, Joe, I'd be done. 5 years, right? The Amity budget was less than 2%, 1.x, let's call it. Last year it was 2.49.
Yeah, 249.
Approved by not a vote of the towns. All right. In each of those last 4 years, the surplus has been 2.6 million average.
Right.
Which meant that the taxpayers of Orange, who pays 50% of the bill, spent 1.3 million in taxes to support a surplus. That's what it means. And that's why I wanted to make sure this was clarified.
Okay, item number 7.
Well, no, we got to go to number 6 because we're on budget discussion. We went through these other things, and John will have stuff prepared. Set up next budget workshop meeting. I don't think we need to do that since we're meeting, well, unless there's a reason to meet before our next meeting.
No, I think you're going to need at least one more meeting between the 15th and the 31st at least. So I know you guys all have trouble with your schedules, so I thought maybe you might want to put it on the calendar now. You can wait till Monday.
I'd rather try to pencil one in right now.
Let's do this. If everybody, since nobody's flying to Europe or to the Caribbean in the month of March that I know of, I'll reach out to Bill and Vince about availability of using their room and get some dates from them and circulate them with everyone so that we can, do a workshop in person if that's, if everybody's okay with that.
I support that 100%, Kevin.
I'm with it. Yep.
Yeah, because in their meeting room, we could be 20 feet apart from each other.
Yep.
Okay. I will do
Okay.
that tomorrow.
On this chart here, since we're talking calendar planning, I will send it out. But Joe, I added the 3 Amity dates that are, was it Joe or Joe and John? I added the district meeting on April 5th. I added the annual budget meeting, which is over on the 4th. And that Amity's referendum is on May 5th. And I'll send this document out as part of the materials I presented tonight. It's in the back of it. Okay, I'll stop sharing now. Unless we're going to do the minutes, Kevin, is that
Okay, yep. Discussion and approval of minutes from February 22nd, 2021.
Don, you still batting lead off?
Yeah, okay. Let's start on page 1. I think up on the part that where we have guests, I think we should, Robert Britton, town engineer and director of public works. I think we should identify him on that. And then Dan Lynch, director of park and recreation, and Anne Marie, director of Orange Economic Development Corp. Just give them their proper titles. On page 4.
Okay, I'm sliding.
Third paragraph, fourth paragraph under public works, page 2.
Okay.
I made a mistake, page 2.
Page 2, okay.
Item 4, that
Yes.
third sentence, third line where it says, Mr. Cifarelli explained the procedure for trees. That was Mr. Britton. It was up to me. I'd let UI cut them down or let them fall, but.
John, where are you on that? Mr. The second bullet under item 4?
Yeah, go down to the third line, about halfway through. No, first paragraph, third line.
Oh, first paragraph, sorry.
Right there. That should be Mr. Britton.
Okay, Mr. Britton, that's correct. I had asked him that question.
Yeah. Third page, second bullet that starts with Mr. Lynch, the middle bullet there. So what cost? The cost is $200. Okay. Mr. Cifarelli explained that the cost is $250,000 and UI is giving the town a $200,000 grant. That should be $200,000.
Put a K next to it.
A K and the town, being the town, yeah.
And then item number 6, Anne Marie again, we should put director after her name. Last bullet in that page there.
Yep.
Ms. Sibley gave an economic, I think we should have development update.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last page, item number 13. Mr. Cifarelli reported that Mr. Britton is working on the FEMA application. I wouldn't say completing. Completing makes it sound like it's going to be done in the next few days, and they're not asking for it yet. So I changed completing with working. And that's all I had.
Oh, and
Jim, you're up.
16.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that.
What's that, John?
Number 12 there, adjournment's really number 16.
Well, unless we,
Oh, there's 13, we're missing 14.
yeah,
Well, it's one hell of a meeting. I don't know how poor Deb stays awake.
yeah. I'm not, okay.
Deb, just renumber them. It looks like that page, it looks like 12, 13, 15 should be 14, and then adjournment should be 15, I think.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Okay, I have some next steps that I'm going to execute, whether they're part of the notes or not. First of all, I'm going to send out the PowerPoint presentation I did tonight so that you guys all have it.
All right, Jim, before we can talk about that in a second, are we done with the minutes, everyone? Joe's on mute.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. It's fine.
Okay, so is there a motion then to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Pat. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, unanimous. Okay, back to you, Mr. Leahy.
John, you see what we did here just a minute ago on the mill rate file?
Yes.
Again, I'm just going to use what I know works with Teams. I'm going to save this one. I'm going to call it version 2 so that I have, know that it's different from the original version I had. And in my world, you never have the name of a file be the exact same as the, they can't have two files with the same name having different content. And once you modify something, you have to change it. Because what we did here today, I think is very helpful. And so I will distribute this version 2 of the mill rate. You can rename it all you want when you get it, but I'll send this back to you and to the rest of the team. So those are the 2 things I can share with the team. And the third thing that I am going to do is I'm going to do the what I'll call the Excel work from John. So that's not a next step. Well, it is a next step to do. And tomorrow afternoon, Kevin, I will find Mark Brancesi and find a time in the PM tomorrow, which will be the 9th, right? To have a joint meeting of yourself, Mark, and John. And John, it sounds like the going rate over in town hall is to not do it, to do it remote, to do it by Zoom. Is that correct?
I didn't follow you there. I thought you wanted to go to the Board of Ed for your next meeting.
No. This is, we do. And Kevin's going to test that out tomorrow with Board of Ed leadership. What I'm referring to is, remember earlier, Kevin had a lot of questions about our grand list. And
Right.
We agreed that I said to Kevin, when are you free? He said, afternoon is better. I'm just working at my desk. You can get a hold of me. So I connect with Brancesi, find out when he's free, and set something up so that conversation can happen, of which I would like to be a part. So, and you're in training, but you might want to be a part of that as well. Method to have a meeting. Zoom meeting is one option. Other options is something other than a Zoom meeting. first of all, would you want to be a part of that?
If it's not a bad part of my training, I certainly would, but it's not vital, I don't think.
Okay, fine.
It depends where I am in the training, because the training's important.
If Mark Francesi and I go up to your office while you're in training
Yes.
and call Kevin, would that work given the protocols of town hall?
Town hall's open, so anybody could come in. You just have to do your social distancing and wear your mask.
Okay, good. So it sounds like we could pull that off.
Yes.
Okay. Then that's my third next step, is to have that meeting tomorrow afternoon, or fourth next step. So PowerPoint, send that Excel file, get that Excel file from you first thing tomorrow, John, and then I'll work that issue that we showed earlier, which had to do with this document right here, this budget summary thing that we discussed, right? And the final thing is to set up a meeting with Mark and Kevin so that they could discuss grand list in related topics. So those are the four things that I'm going to do. Okay. I think I can stop sharing now.
Right, so we have our game plan for tomorrow.
Yep.
Our next meeting is Monday. And I know one of our members wanted to end this meeting an hour ago, so I'll look to him. Must make a motion.
That's actually a cutout figure of PJ that's in front of the camera.
I wish, but next meeting it will be. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Pat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and I'll talk to some of you tomorrow. And